मूलजी जेठा कॉलेज द्वारा आयोजित इस राष्ट्रीय वेबिनार में मैं हितेश ब्रिजवासी आप सभी उपस्थित मान्यवरों का स्वागत करता हूं। आज इस एक दिवसीय कार्यक्रम में जो हमारे बीच मुख्य अतिथि मौजूद है, मैं इनका आपको शॉर्ट में इंट्रोडक्शन कराना चाहता हूं। आज इस कार्यक्रम के अध्यक्ष के तौर पे मूलजी जेठा महाविद्यालय के प्रिंसिपल डॉक्टर एस.एन. भारंबे सर हमारे बीच मौजूद है। उसी के साथ आज के इस कार्यक्रम के कीनोट स्पीकर के तौर पे डॉक्टर जगदीश कुलकर्णी, डायरेक्टर नॉलेज रिसोर्स सेंटर SITMU नांदेड़ विद्यापीठ के हमारे साथ मौजूद है। और आज के कार्यक्रम के प्रमुख वक्ता प्राध्यापक डॉक्टर BS कंची सर, librarian of Mulji Jetha College, as well as also the coordinator of National Conservation of Manuscript Center. So without wasting a time, we are going to start today's session. First of all, I would like to invite Principal Dr. S.N. Bharabhai sir for inaugural session. And
हेलो हाँ सर, मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
आ रही सर, आ रही सर।
ओके। Good afternoon to all. Respected Honorable Principal of Khandesh College Education Society, Pradnyavant Nandakumar Bendale ji. Keynote speaker of this webinar, Dr. Jagdish Kulkarni, Director KRC SRTM University Nanded. Organizing Secretary Mr. Hitesh Brishwaji, Resource Person Director KRC Mulji Jetha College Jalgaon and Director of Manuscript Conservation Center of MJ Autonomous College Dr. V.S. Kanchi, all dignitaries, directors of KRCs of various universities, librarians of various colleges, research students in the field and disciplines of library and information science, and dear friends. I again welcome you in this national webinar on all about conservation of manuscript and rare book for librarians, organized by Manuscript Conservation Center, all about conservation of manuscript and rare book for librarians, organized by the Manuscript Conservation Center of Mulji Jetha Autonomous College, Jalgaon. First of all, I hereby declare that I have inaugurated this national webinar. At the outset, I don't want to stand between speaker and you, dear participant, but I must focus on some objective of this webinar, that are: number one, to introduce the center established by the college, that is Manuscript Conservation Center of Mulji Jetha Autonomous College. Second one, that is to discuss and promote the research findings and new emerging trends in the conservation of manuscripts. Third, to provide premier scientific forum for librarians, researchers, and academicians to navigate the further research for better mankind in the field of manuscript and conservation technology. With this, I extend my warm wishes to all participants for rest of the event, and I hope all participants will definitely enjoy this scientific event and learn a lot from our eminent speakers. Thank you and wish you all the best.
Sir, for your kind words. Now, thank you very much, sir, for your kind words. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Jagdish Kulkarni, sir, for Dr. Jagdish Kulkarni, sir.
Okay, thank you. Namaskar. Good afternoon to you all. First and foremost, I wholeheartedly congratulate organizers for organizing a national webinar on all about conservation of manuscripts and rare books for librarians. The theme is contemporary and very useful to library professionals to know about everything related to the manuscripts and rare books. Indeed, it is my proud privilege to be present here virtually and address as a keynote speaker. I am really grateful to you for your good words about me and the organizers for this great honor. Honorable Pradnyavant Sri Nandakumar Bendale sir, President of KC Society's Mulji Jetha Autonomous College, Jalgaon. I met him once with again Kanji sir. Respected Principal Dr. S.N. Bharambe sir, my friend Dr. Vijay Srikant Kanchi, Director of KRC and Head Manuscript Conservation Center of MJ College, and today's resource person. Today he is playing multi-dimensional role today. So he is resource person, he is organizer, and lot of things he has to do. Then rising star of the library and information science profession, Mr. Hitesh Brijwasi, who is organizing secretary, members of the technical committee, Mr. Madhukar Bonde, Mr. Hemant Joshi, Mr. Jayesh Patel, members of the governing council as well as college development committee, teaching and administrative staff, then some participants, renowned participants, respected participants are there like Dr. Balekar sir, Mr. Prashant Kalloli, Rajesh Agawade, Mangesh Joshi, and all friends, participant friends, brothers and sisters. This is really a feast, I can say, for the librarians, because nowadays everyone is talking about the information technology, online journals, online books, etc., etc., etc. No one is going back to the manuscripts. Though the government is going, all world is going behind, looking after manuscripts, safeguarding the manuscripts. But nowadays, there is no such webinars and conferences, and even librarians finds many times problems to how to conserve the library material. So first of all, I congratulate the organizers for organizing such a webinar for the librarians. I have visited MJ College campus 2-3 times, and I firmly say that the MJ College is one of the best colleges which I have seen. The college is like a mini university. The region is well known for poet Bahinabai Chaudhary. The theme of the webinar is all about conservation of manuscripts and rare books of for librarians. Conservation means keep in safety and protect from harm, decay, loss, and destruction. It is very popular, proper word in Marathi. Marathi it call as a samvardhan. There is no proper word in other languages. I have seen in Hindi and other languages, they just call it as a sanrakshan. Conservation, it is not just a sanrakshan. It has some additional meaning like a samvardhan. Then manuscript is noun evolved from Latin word. Manuscripts means written by hand. Manu is hand and scriptures is to write. In Marathi, again, it is called as a hastalikhita. And in Hindi, we call it as a pandulipi. So I was afraid to learn that word pandulipi. I was thinking it is something from Mahabharata, but it is not like that. Pandulipi is a manuscript. The rare book stands for its early printing date. So how you can say that what is rare book? In NAC, we find that they have asked that there should be a rare books in the library. But how? So there are different opinions. Someone says that this is rare book. Someone says this is rare book. But the definition says that the rare book stands for its early printing date. One thing. Then its limited issue. Second, the special character of the edition. Third, binding. Fourth, and its historical interest. So there are 3, 4, 5 criteria. How we can say that it is a rare book? In Marathi, we call it as a Durmil Grantha, and in Hindi, it is called as a Durlabh Kitabe. So this was regarding the manuscripts, rare books. Now we'll just see what is manuscripts. India has been known world over as a repository of one of the ancient most civilization of the world. India in the ancient past has registered some of the greatest achievement in the world of science, art, literature, architecture, philosophy, and other subjects. 4 of the important religions of the world, that is Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism, owe their origination to this great land. These religions have contributed to the rich heritage of ancient wisdom, which was preserved for centuries in the form of oral tradition, monuments, artifacts, and also as a manuscripts. Manuscripts are the existing example of humanistic and imaginative activities of the earlier period of human civilization. A manuscript speaks to the past, reveals history, unfolds perspective, and reflects the socio-cultural, even socio-political scenes of its times. Its contents are significant literary, scientifically, historically, in the form of fascinating paleographically, calligraphically, and technically. The literary, scientific, social, or political, or history of a people can only be written objectively if it is based on the original sources, and these sources are manuscripts or archival documents. Manuscripts are the lifeblood of the history. Indeed, when the term source is used in historical research, it points to the original documents. Manuscripts in India have a long tradition. They were produced in all parts of the country. They are in many languages. In India, especially in Sanskrit, there are so many manuscripts. There are different scripts and on wide range of religious, philosophical, historical, literary, and scientific subjects. Frequently, they have rich illuminations and illustrations of outstanding quality. In a great variety of schools and styles of miniature painting in some of the periods and places in India, the importance of the history of the development of painting is great. Everywhere, there are reflection of profound and wide-ranging learning and the richness, variety, and long history of Indian culture. The NAC accreditation process also expressed the libraries to make available rare books, manuscripts, and other special collections. It is important that college and university libraries also began to take great interest in the cultural preservation of our country, embodied in the form of manuscripts. I hope you will come to know every aspect of conservation of manuscripts and rare books. My best wishes are there for the resource person as well as participants and all the organizers for this grand success of this conference. With this brief discussion, I conclude my keynote address here. Once again, I'm thankful to the organizers for giving me an opportunity to share my views. Thank you one and all. Jai Hind, Jai Maharashtra. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your brief information about manuscript and Manusmriti in your keynote speak. So now, without wasting time, we are going to continue our session. For that, I would like to invite Dr. V.S. Kanchi, sir, librarian of Mulli Jetha College, as well as coordinator of Manuscript Center.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes.
I would like to express my deep sense of gratitude to Honorable Principal Jason Bharanja, sir, for being present in the inauguration of this event. I thank you very much. And very importantly, the force behind this activity called Manuscript Preservation in the Mulli Jetha College, members of Nandakumar Vendade, sir, Society. Very grateful for this kindness. There was a little bit of technical glitch. Anyway, so the issue is, I'm really grateful to Pragnavant Nandakumar Bendale, sir, who was instrumental in establishment of this Manuscript Conservation Center. Well, the topic that I'm going to present before you is all about conservation of manuscripts and rare books for librarians. This project would not have been possible. This would not have been possible. Hello. If my voice is audible, I would continue with the presentation. This online webinar would not have been possible with the support of my colleagues, Mr. Madhukar Bonde, I beg your pardon, Mr. Hemant Joshi, and Mr. Jayesh Patil, who have been assisting me and helping me in the conservation of manuscripts for the last couple of years, since 2018. So I am very grateful to all of you for giving me this opportunity to present before you some of the very interesting and fascinating aspects regarding the manuscripts, rare books, and their need for conservation of these heritage content for the posterity. If my presentation is visible, is it visible? Great. Yes. Just a minute. So, good evening once again, friends. As you are all aware, the topic that we are going to discuss is all about conservation of manuscripts and rare books. The title itself reveals the fact that the topic is quite big in its nature. The very nature of the topic is such that it requires quite a detailed degree of elaboration and exposition. So, with the kind permission of all of you, I would like to give a detailed account on the necessity for conserving the manuscripts, rare books, and how this conservation would help us even in the future, even for our future generations as well. here is my first point. First and foremost, it's very important for all of us to recognize the fact that how is it that a librarian is more or less related to the conservation of manuscripts and rare books? As Professor Jagdish Kulkarni sir, the keynote speaker, has very rightly pointed out in his keynote address, that in the modern times, everybody is looking forward. Everybody is looking into the future. We are all trying to provide e-resources or the best possible e-content to the students, researchers, as well as the faculty members. Now, at a time when everybody is really focusing towards the future, what is the necessity for a librarian, particularly per se, to look back and seriously contemplate about conservation of manuscripts and rare books? What is the necessity and how is it related to our profession? This is a topic that we need to be very clear about. First and foremost, let's be very clear about this. India is a country with an extraordinary legacy of cultural heritage. We have had one of the finest historical events recorded in the form of Puranas, whatnot, Itihasas, and a plethora of things. In fact, it is no exaggeration to bring to the notice of all of you that India has been the greatest repository of manuscripts in the world. कहने का तात्पर्य यह है कि if we count the number of manuscripts available across the globe, India stands at the pinnacle. India stands at the first number, being the largest repository of manuscripts. So it is vitally important as a responsible citizen of this great country to see to it that this cultural heritage is preserved and transmitted to the future generation. A second very important aspect is we are knowledge preservers and facilitators. As librarians and as directors of knowledge resource centers, our prime duty is to see to it that the knowledge is preserved and conserved and the knowledge is facilitated to the target audience. So if the target audience, to be more precise, the students and the faculty members, if they are in requirement of any source of knowledge, they are going to fall back and rely on the librarians of various academic institutions. So it is our duty to preserve this knowledge and facilitate this transmission of ancient knowledge to the posterity. That is also equally very important. Third and very important aspect is, as part of our duties and responsibilities of teachers in higher education, a librarian basically is considered and recognized, rightly so, as a teacher in higher education. Now, the teachers of higher education are bestowed with a couple of responsibilities. The first and foremost responsibility, as we are all aware, is teaching. But another important aspect of responsibility is research and innovation. So the primary focus of most of the teachers generally revolves around teaching in the classroom and research, and then whatever the research that they have carried out is published in reputed research journals. And that is precisely where the teacher generally believes that his job is more or less over. But that's not really the case. What is very important is, as a teacher, the responsibility of the teacher towards the society is also equally very important. And precisely here where the concept of extension of the whatever the knowledge outcome that is produced by an academic institution to be carried out to the society comes into the picture. And the most vital aspect that is often overlooked is the issue of preservation of cultural heritage. Unfortunately, most of the teachers, whether they are teachers or the librarians, we are of the false notion that preservation of cultural heritage is the responsibility of the government and we have no role to play. That is absolutely wrong. If we read the educational commissions, starting from 1966 Kothari Commission, or even much before 1948, the commission of Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, they all point to this very important aspect of the necessity to preserve and conserve the cultural heritage of our country. And unfortunately, we have been overlooking this aspect for various reasons. So it is vitally important for all of us as the librarians, as the knowledge preservers and facilitators, to see to it that the knowledge, the cultural heritage of this great land is preserved and carried forward to the posterity. And finally, of course, though it is last, it is not least, another important aspect is for improving our institutional score in the assessment and accreditation of the NAC. We are all aware that NAC expects the institutes of higher education to focus on collection of rare books and other material which have important knowledge value. So even from this perspective also, if we look at it, it is important for our profession to fall back onto the rare books and the manuscripts and work towards their conservation. With this, I would like to get into another important aspect. I am trying to present 5 strong reasons for conserving our heritage material, because this would act as a foundation. This would act as a reason for all of us to make a resolve, to see to it that yes, from today onwards, henceforth, we will certainly work diligently for the preservation of our cultural heritage material embodied in the form of manuscripts, artifacts, or whatever. First and foremost reason, you all might be aware about this Nag Hammadi codices. If you are aware, Nag Hammadi are the codices that were found in the year 1945 in the Egypt. It was by a farmer who found these codices. 13 leather-bound papyrus codices were found in a sealed jar by a farmer in 1945 in the Egyptian town of Nag Hammadi. What is very significant is, because of this revelation of Nag Hammadi codices, that we have come to know about the Gospel of Thomas. Till now, before 1945, only 4 Gospels of Bible, the Gospel of Mark, the Gospel of Matthew, the Gospel of Luke, and Gospel of I think Paul. Only these were John, I beg your pardon, Gospel of John. Only these were recognized as the true Gospels of Christianity. But thanks to this revelation of Nag Hammadi library and the subsequent codices, which have been extracted from this sealed jar, it is now possible for us to look at the life and times of Jesus Christ from an entirely different perspective. Thanks to these Nag Hammadi codices, that we now realize the fact that probably Mary Magdalene was a very, very close associate of Jesus Christ, even to the extent of probably being very close to Jesus Christ. And there have been many other revelations also. The Gnostic teachings of Christianity also came to the fore thanks to the revelation of Nag Hammadi codices. So the important point I'm trying to drive in today is the fact that without the what you call excavation of these the Nag Hammadi codices, the entire Christian history would have been entirely different. Thanks to these manuscripts, these papyrus manuscripts that have been found preserved for over 2000 years, that we are now in a position to recognize the true history of Christianity in a much better light. Another important aspect, Arthashastra of Kautilya. We are all aware of this Arthashastra of Kautilya. If you want to place an order on Amazon or any other e-platform, e-bookstore, you would come to know that Arthashastra is translated in English by one Rudrapatha Shama Shastri. Who was Rudrapatha Shama Shastri? Rudrapatna Shamasastri was a librarian in the erstwhile University of Mysore Library, and he came across a collection of manuscripts in the library. Some of them old Talapatra Grantha, the palm leaf manuscripts. Now, as he was going through and trying to browse each and every content of these manuscripts, he came across this very interesting manuscript of Arthashastra. Arthashastra is a work that was written in the 2nd century BCE during the Mauryan Empire. And it is the oldest book on the governance, military strategy, politics, economics, justice, and duties of rulers. And Rudrapatna Shamasastri, he was a Sanskrit scholar. He was also the serving librarian of that university during that period. And he discovered this original Arthashastra in the year 1905 among the mounds of palm leaf documents lying in the Oriental Research Institute. Now, even the original manuscript of Arthashastra is still preserved in the Oriental Research Institute of University of Mysore. The interesting aspect is, before its discovery in the 1905 and its subsequent publication in the year 1916, the Britishers used to project that only the Machiavelli's The Prince, which is a 16th century work, is the world's oldest treatise on political philosophy. Had Shamasastri not found the palm leaf manuscripts in the mounds of manuscripts bundles lying hidden in the university racks, we would not have realized the fact that we are the forerunners in the exposition of governance, military strategy, politics, economics, etc. Thanks to this great man, Rudrapatna Shamasastri, that we now recognize the fact that it is not the Greeks, but the Indians who have mastered this technique of governance, leadership, military strategy, politics, economics, justice, etc., etc. So probably this would make us make before us a strong case for us to take a serious look at the content of the various manuscripts that we came across, that we often come across during our course of life. So whenever we come across a manuscript, it is vitally important for all of us to take an attentive look at the content of the manuscript and see for its value in terms of the knowledge value. And if we find that the knowledge value, the content of the manuscript has great knowledge value, it is incumbent upon all of us to see to it that it is brought to the limelight. That is very important. In 1996 and 1998, I just want to bring to the notice of all of you that the University of Mysore Library met with some fire accident due to some faulty wiring, due to some short circuit. You know, they have this collection of approximately 70,000 old manuscripts dating back to 6th century, 8th century and all. All these could have got completely gutted in the fire accident. But thanks to some immediate action that was taken by the library staff, that these manuscripts have been preserved. So the important point is, as a librarian, it is not merely our responsibility to provide knowledge resources to the students. It is equally important for all of us to see to it that the knowledge resources that the library has are properly conserved, are properly preserved, and safety mechanisms are installed so that there is no threat for their survival, for their existence. You know, the image that you see at the bottom of my slide is the original Arthashastra of Kautilya. This is preserved for almost 2000 years. It has been handed over from generation to generation, and finally it landed in the University of Library Oriental Research Institute, and now the original manuscript is still there. But the point is, it's not in a really very good condition. If you visit Oriental Research Institute of University of Mysore and ask the librarian to give you a first-hand look at the manuscript, in all likelihood he would say no, because it's not in a really very good condition. The fact is, our ancient people, our forefathers, they were very sensible as far as transmitting the knowledge is concerned. They did not use paper, they did not use cloth, they used palm leaf. You know what was the reason for writing manuscripts on palm leaves? Palm leaves, if they are preserved in an ordinary condition without any extra care, even then also they can survive for at least 1000 years. So the ancients knew this interesting aspect, that if a manuscript is written on a palm leaf and the palm leaf is stored in a reasonable condition, not in an extraordinarily careful condition or not in a very poor condition, it would survive the vagaries of time for 1000 years without any great difficulty. So the manuscripts that we see in the Oriental Research Institute stands a testimony to this interesting aspect. Now I will talk about another third important reason to take a serious look at manuscripts. Now we are all aware that Manusmriti is one of the most contentious issues of Indian polity since 1920s. There have been many attempts to burn the Manusmriti, reasonably so, for its casteist representation of the society. And because of this particular work called Manusmriti, there has been a lot of tumultuous incidents in the Indian polity as well as in the Indian society. But here is the interesting aspect. The Manusmriti, as we are all aware, was first published, edited and published by William Jones in the year 1794. It was later retranslated and published by Burnell in 1884, and then in 1886 by Bahler, and then Downinger in 1991. Now, what is very interesting is that now the modern scholarship points to the fact that The Calcutta manuscript of Kullaka Bhatta commentary, on which Sir William Jones entirely relied upon for his translation into English, is not really a very reliable manuscript. This is what the modern scholarship tries to project. At least there are 50 manuscripts with the same title, Manusmriti, that are available and that are extant even today, and they're inconsistent with each other and even within themselves. And now the question arises that probably Sir William Jones either has overlooked all these issues, or maybe probably partisan in his approach, and he wanted to project the Indian Hindu code of law in a bad light, and then chose one manuscript over others, and because of which the Indian society was more or less divided. Why I am saying this? I'm trying to provide you one interesting aspect. Now, there is this interesting reading that I was going through by the renowned legal luminary, Patrick Olivelle. He has published a Manu's Code of Law in the year 2005. He's a very renowned legal luminary across the globe. And he says that one of the greatest surprises of my editorial work has been to discover how few in the sense very little number, how few of the over 50 manuscripts that I collated actually follow the Vulgate or the Kullaka version in the key readings. So the Kullaka version, the Kullaka Bhatta's version, which William Jones relied upon, probably was not really the true manuscript which should have been brought to the limelight, maybe for whatever the reasons. So if, for example, as a librarian, if any of us lay our hand on any manuscript of Manusmriti dating prior to 1794, imagine, and if you come up with its publication, with its editorial work, probably the original Manusmriti would come to the fore, and probably the division that is the result of this bad work called Manusmriti within the Indian society could be at least alleviated to a considerable extent. That is one important aspect I wanted to bring to the notice of all of you. Here is this very interesting one. This is the fourth reason why I would strongly recommend that we all need to take a special care and special interest in manuscripts as well as the rare books. What you see before your eyes is what is known as a Voynich manuscript. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this Voynich manuscript. Of course, there would be certainly a good number of people who are familiar with this word Voynich manuscript. The interesting aspect of this Voynich manuscript is that it is written in a language that is not deciphered even till date. The script could not be deciphered, the language could not be understood, and even the imagery, whatever the imagery that was painted on this Voynich manuscript, could not be understood because all the images seem to be extraterrestrial. They have nothing to do with the plants and organisms of earthly origin. They seem to be extraterrestrial. Who has written this? Who has painted all this imagery? Who has chosen this particular script that is no longer extant? Nobody knows till date. There have been very serious scientific research trying to break the script of this particular Voynich manuscript and the content that it contains. Several computer algorithms have also been employed. And earlier, it has been believed that probably somebody has played a hoax. Somebody has created a false kind of a thing to arouse interest in the society and befool people in the sense that people should mistake this as something of a great knowledge value, but in fact, it is only a hoax kind of a thing. But the computer algorithms now reveal that no, it is not a randomly written work, but it has all the characteristics of a standard language. The linguists and the computer programmers sat together and worked on the patterns of various scripts, various letters found in the script. And they have realized the fact that this particular manuscript, Voynich manuscript, certainly has a knowledge value. But unfortunately, we are not in a position to decipher what the knowledge it contains. So, and who has found this? A person happened to pass across some Radhi center, you know, Bhangar center, what we call, where the old material, old paper and books are generally given away in return of some money. So one person in the Italy happened to pass by this particular Radhi center. he came across this interesting book. He found this imagery quite interesting and appealing. He bought this book for a very paltry sum. Now the original Voynich manuscript is valued at a few $1 billion, and whosoever has the original Voynich manuscript is a multi-billionaire in the present context. So, my dear friends, if you come across a manuscript, if you come across some rare book, it's very important for all of us to pay a serious, attentive look at the content and probably take some serious interest towards such material. I will give you the fifth important reason behind this contention that we need to pay more attention towards our ancient heritage preserved in the form of manuscripts and rare books. And with this fifth reason, I would get into the more serious aspects of technical aspects of conserving the manuscripts. There was this project run by this University of Hamburg, the German university, with the association with the National Archives of Nepal. This project was known as NGMPP, Nepal German Manuscript Preservation Project. It started in the early 1970s and it continued till 2002. What is really very pathetic is the fact that Nepal, Bhutan, Tibet, India, Myanmar, all these are part and parcel of one single culture, the culture of India. That is the reason why this whole region is called Indian subcontinent, starting from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh. Now we recognize them as politically and geographically as different entities, but culturally we have been one single entity up to Indonesia. Well, the fact is, unfortunately, we don't take a serious interest into our cultural legacy. But the Germans were very keen about the manuscript wealth of Nepal, and they came to Nepal and made a memorandum of understanding with Nepal Archives of National Archives of Nepal, and then they came up with the NGMPP project. Now the pity is they have microfilmed almost 2 lakh manuscripts, and the microfilm is at the disposal of Hamburg University. Unfortunately, in the year 1988, a fire broke in the famous monastery of Tengboche in Khumbu, and it burned almost some 2,000 very rare ancient manuscripts preserved in the Tibet. They have been brought to Nepal during that time. They were gutted in the fire. No, not only that, in the year 2002, the Pashupatinath temple in Kathmandu, it also met with a fire accident. And again, some 10,000 manuscripts were gutted in the fire. Now, the pity is, though this is your knowledge, this is our knowledge, we do not have the originals with us. And if you want to read the manuscripts, all that you will have to do is send a requisite to Hamburg University, requesting them to provide the microfilm copy. They will charge you $1, close to 74 rupees, for you to access one single page of your own knowledge, the knowledge of your forefathers, the knowledge of our forefathers. Now, the pathetic situation is, it is your knowledge, but it is not under your control. It is in the control of a German university, and the German university provides you access, provided you pay them 70 rupees per page. So this is the pity and the pathetic situation. Because we are not really concerned about our own legacy, our own tradition, and we do not value our own heritage, that this pathetic situation arose. So these are the 5 important reasons that I wanted to put before you. And just imagine, India has been the largest repository of manuscripts. Even at present, it is estimated that we have at least 50 lakh manuscripts available in India. Please understand the mind-boggling number. At least there are 50 lakh manuscripts that are still extant in India in various corners of the country. So, despite the fact that there have been many intrusions by the marauding crowds who thought that the knowledge of the infidels must be burnt down. So they have completely tried to exterminate the knowledge repositories in the libraries of Indian universities. These were the universities: Ratnagiri University, Vikramshila University, Somapur University, Vallabhi University. It is not Vallabhi, it is Vallabhi University. Pushpagiri University, Jagadala University, Munshiganj University, Takshashila University, Odantapuri University, Nalanda University. See, India was the only country to have the university education in the ancient times. Now, if you visit Europe, they boast that since the 12th century onwards, we have this university education in Europe, starting from Germany, France, and other countries. But the pity is, 12th century is very recent as compared to the Indian education system. We have been having, for example, take the case of Takshashila University. It was established at least in the 3rd century BC, at least 2,300 years ago. And all these universities have been completely vandalized by the marauding crowds who believed that the knowledge of the infidels has no room to survive on this earth. Now, as the case of Nalanda University, they are all aware that there was this great, a fanatic, I should say, by name Bhaktiyar Khalji, who attacked this Nalanda University in the year 1198. He wrote a rock edict, boastfully claiming that he has put to fire the library, which burned day and night for 6 months. He has killed 600 Buddhist scholars of the Nalanda University in a matter of just 5 days. Within the same 5 days, he has also killed 800 Sanatan Dharmi Vedic scholars. So in all put together, there were 1,400 people who have been lynched in a matter of 4 or 5 days by this fanatic called Bhaktiyar Khilji. And he put on fire the library of Nalanda University that burnt for over 6 months. Now you can imagine, suppose in the modern times, we put to fire all the Google servers and all the YouTube servers and even all the university libraries, we put them on fire. What would happen? We would fall back to the state of what you call jungle man wala state, in which we have no knowledge base to rely on or to fall back on. That was a pathetic situation this country has been through for at least 2 millennia. Well, another interesting aspect is very recently, in the year 2013 or 14, a library was found in Tibet containing 84,000 secret manuscripts, including history of mankind for over 1,000 years. This was found in the Sakya monastery, and this is considered as perhaps the largest library of manuscripts in the world. It was discovered behind a huge wall. If you see from the front, the facade is only a huge wall. But if you go behind the facade, you would recognize that it is 60 meters long and 10 meters wide, containing enormous number of manuscripts in its possession. Another interesting aspect that I would like to put before you is the story of Abdul Qadir Hairdara. This is a gentleman from Mali. When the ISIS and Al-Qaeda wanted to burn down the knowledge legacy of manuscript legacy of that country, this man took all the risk and see to it that at least 350,000 manuscripts have been safely handed over to government agencies, and now they are there in the safe hands of the Mali government. So without these extraordinarily courageous people, the manuscript wealth of our ancient heritage would have been completely gutted or would have been completely exterminated from the face of this earth. Now, if you remember, this is the video that projects the Bamiyan Buddha's bombing of Bamiyan Buddha by the Taliban in the year 2001. The Bamiyan Buddha, 125 feet long Bamiyan Buddha, was bombarded because it represents the knowledge of infidels. Now the Taliban again have resumed in Afghanistan. They have this very serious mission of Khorasan. They are at your doorstep. If you are really serious about conserving your knowledge, your heritage, your wealth, it is time. This was a golden Buddha, the Bamiyan Buddha. When it was bombarded, it was only a piece made up of mere rock and sand. But the outer covering was lost. The outer covering actually was of a gold covering of 1 centimeter thick. It was stolen. It was pilfered by year after year by many people. Well, So the issue is the threat is always there, and the threat is really looming right at our doorsteps. If somebody believes that the knowledge and the legacy of one country or the one culture is to be completely exterminated, we need to seriously look, we need to seriously take a responsible gesture and see to it that our knowledge and our legacy is preserved for the posterity. Well, what did our forefathers take the risks or take the pains to transmit their knowledge to us? I will give you a couple of small examples. Now, this is in Mushtang, in the upper northern regions of Nepal. Now, these are the caves that are inaccessible even in the modern technologically driven society. It is really very, very difficult to reach these heights, these caves. But if you happen to get into these caves with all your modern gadgetry, what you find, these are the caves that have been dug almost 1500 years ago to 1200 years ago in the upper regions of Mushtang in the Nepal. They contain enormous wealth of manuscripts. Again, neither the Nepalese government nor the Indian government nor anybody from the Asia are interested. It is only the French, the Italian, and the German who have made an expedition to this region in the year 2008, and they have came up with all the manuscripts. They have brought out the manuscripts from these caves. I have our ancient people took so much of pain to store them in such an inaccessible place. The answer is simple. They believed that the knowledge that was written in these manuscripts is so important, so vitally important, that it needs to be preserved and protected and to be carried forward and to be handed over to the future generations. They took such a great risk. But unfortunately, even though your forefathers are so keen to hand over their legacy, unfortunately, we are not ready to take their legacy. Now, these are the manuscript bundles that have been taken out from the caves from the upper Mushtang region, what is known as Lomanthang. And now, with the help of the Nepalese Buddhist scholars, the people have started working on it. Again, the manuscripts that have been extracted or excavated out from these caves, they are no longer in the possession of Nepalese government or no longer in the possession of any of the South Asian countries. Again, they are carried to the German universities, they are carried to the Italian universities. Now, if you want to read the content of this, again, you have to fall back and send a request to these European universities, asking them for help to know what actually the content of these manuscripts are. That is the pity and the pathetic situation is. So here are some of the glimpses of how these manuscripts have been conserved by the European scholars. Now, now it is time for me to get into some technical aspects. What are documents of archival value? From henceforth, the next few hours or next few minutes, I'm going to describe the technical aspects of manuscript conservation, so that I request all of you to pay some serious attention to this, and we would try to provide a practical demonstration of how manuscripts are conserved and digitized with the help of my colleagues at the end of this session. Now, what are the manuscripts of archival value? Any manuscript or a rare book, old and rare documents such as charts, maps, photographs, letters, etc., or historical records such as gazetteers of the government, they are all considered as documents of historical value. So if you come across any of these things, whether they are handwritten manuscripts, printed rare books, old and rare documents such as charts, maps, photographs, letters, etc., or even the gazetteers published by the government, they are all considered as manuscripts or artifacts worth conserving. But what is very important? Jagdish Kulkarni sir pointed out this very important aspect. What is the criteria to identify a book as a rare book? What is the criteria to identify a manuscript? Is there any standard frame of reference based on which we would be in a position to say this particular artifact or this particular entity fits the description of a document of archival value, and this particular book does not fit this description of document of archival value. What is the criteria? Now the criteria, we all should know that there is this Antiques and Art Treasure Act of India that was promulgated in the year 1972. It says very clearly that a manuscript basically should have important knowledge base as knowledge value as its base, and it should have scientific, historical, or aesthetic, or at least cultural significance, and it should have been handwritten and should be at least over 75 years of age. So here is the reference. If you are talking about a manuscript, and if you want to call a thing as a manuscript of a important archival value, the criteria is that we need to fall back onto this Antiques and Art Treasure Act of India promulgated in 1972, which describes any manuscript which is a handwritten composition having scientific, historical, and aesthetic value, and which has been in existence for not less than 75 years. This is important. But as regards to artifacts, artifacts means, for example, numismatics, coins, or maybe some very beautiful piece of art, etc., or maybe some painting, some photograph. For them, the criteria is that they must have been in existence for not less than 100 years. As far as handwritten manuscripts are concerned, it is the deadline is at least 75 years of age. But as far as artifacts are concerned, it is at least of 100 years old. This is the criteria. I hope this important point is noted down by all my fellow brethren, librarians. Now, what are the cultural properties? As regards to metals, they generally include bronze icons, bells, vessels, weapons, jewelry, coins, etc. If they are over 100 years old, they are considered as artifacts of high cultural significance. Organic objects, which include temple courts, doors, textiles, palm leaves, leather objects, paper, etc. As regards to inorganic objects are concerned, the stone pillars, sculptures, inscriptions, terracotta objects, glass, and ceramic, they all fall under the category of inorganic objects. And paintings are generally considered as composite objects because a painting generally requires multiple media to be used for a painting. We will get into those details a little later. Now, here is the next important aspect. Now, one important aspect that I would like to put before all of you. Again, the idea of grantha, or storing the knowledge in the form of a book, is mentioned at least in the 5th century BC. Unlike in any other country, it is only in India that you would come across this expression called grantha, or a knowledge embodied in the form of a book. The earliest palm leaf Indian manuscripts, it is claimed, belong to 6th century AD, written in Sanskrit language. Now, the manuscript wealth of India, 67% of manuscript wealth of India is written in Sanskrit language. Okay, so we are the ancient most custodians of manuscripts since the time immemorial. Another important aspect, Max Muller, in the history of ancient Sanskrit literature, he points out to the fact that when Alexander invaded India in the year 326 BC, he came across one of his accomplices, Nearchos, who was the chieftain of Sikandar, who wrote that the people of India know the art of preparing paper. So this completely banishes the notion that the first people who have prepared paper was Chinese. No, Chinese in fact took the idea of paper preparation from India, according to Max Muller, and then they have improvised and improved the technique of paper preparation. And then it was again brought back to India and then to Nepal, through Nepal to India in the later part of the medieval period. So Max Muller, according to Max Muller, it was the Indians who first prepared the paper using the papyrus pulp. Another important aspect is manuscript refer to any handwritten document from the ancient times until the introduction of printing in the 1400s. Now we all know that in the year 1470s or so, the first printing took place in the German province of Gutenberg. But even after the printing technology, emergence of printing technology, any handwritten manuscript which is over 75 years of age, which has important knowledge value, can still be considered as a manuscript of significant archival value and needs to be preserved. But the general definition is that before the advent of printing technology, if anything is written down by hand, it is to be reckoned as a manuscript. Now, coming back to the term manuscript, manuscripts can also be chiseled or maybe scratched with a knife in plaster or stylus or on a waxed tablet, even in the form of cuneiform writing, impressed with a pointed stylus on a flat tablet, etc. So all these are also considered as manuscripts only. So the point that I'm trying to drive out is that it's not necessary that the medium on which the manuscript is written should necessarily be a paper. No, that's not really the case. Whatever the medium be, if the carving or writing is carried out by hand, it is considered as a manuscript. Now, there are several names that are extant and that are in vogue across India as regards to manuscripts. We call them as Panduliti, Hastalekha, Hastalikhita, Matrika, Pustaka, Pustika, Pushta, Potha, Pothi, Pothaka, Pothika, Mulakosha, Adarsha, Grantha. So it is very important for all of us to familiarize ourselves with various names that are extant across the Indian subcontinent. So if you come across any of these terms and if you found these manuscripts, we should certainly pay attention to this. Now, another important aspect that we all should know as librarians, the pages of manuscripts are called folios. They are not called pages, but they are called folios. The front, the page that appears before us is called recto, and the page that appears behind it is called verso. This is the same terminology that is used even in the printed books also. Recto is the front page and verso is the back side of the page. And MS is the abbreviation used for referring to manuscript. And if manuscripts are to be referred in plural form, MSS is used. Okay. Now, coming back to some other important aspects. When you come across a bunch of folios strewn together in the form of a manuscript, it is important for all of us to recognize certain important features of manuscripts. What is known as bonita is the preamble. It describes the name of the manuscripts and sometimes even the writer, and it is also considered as a variant of Pushpika. I will explain what Pushpika is. It is important that the preamble or the bonita is to be minutely studied to understand the name of the manuscript and who the author of this manuscript is. And Pushpika is what is known as the colophon. It is a composite work made of a brief autobiography of the writer, name of the manuscript, date of writing. Now, bonita is also called Mangala Charanam or Mangalanushasanam. It is the introductory part of the manuscript. Pushpika comes at the fag end. It is Sri Brahmanda Purane, so and so Nama Panchadashodhyayaha. This is how it generally appears at the fag end of each chapter, and it is called Pushpika. Now, Pushpika gives a detailed autobiography of the writer, why he has chosen to write this particular manuscript, the date of writing or the copying, and it also contains the name of the scribe or the former content of the manuscript in the last folio, along with the dates of the writing and copying in the last folio. So it may also contain the name of the person who delegated this task. For example, if under the instruction of a king, a poet has chosen to write this manuscript, that Kriti Samarpanam is also provided in the Pushpika. This is generally provided at the fag end of the manuscript. The name of the scribe is generally found on the last leaf or on the first leaf or at the end of the chapter. So it is very important to pay an attentive look at the first few pages of the manuscript and as well as the last pages of the manuscript for us to decipher what is the name of the manuscript and who authored that manuscript. Now, kinds of manuscripts. Here are a couple of interesting things that I would like to present before you. You know, these are the palm leaf manuscripts, which are known as Tadpatra Grantha, birch bark manuscript, Bhojapatra, Bhurjapatra. Bhurjapatra are extant in Uttarakhand, Kashmir, and other hilly regions. We also come across a lot of copperplate manuscripts also, predominantly in those mutts, monasteries, and temples who are closely associated with ancient temples. We will come across copper plates and handmade paper also. Vellum. Vellum is basically the skin of a calf. गाय का जो बछड़ा होता है, गाय का बछड़े का स्किन जो होता है, उसके ऊपर जो लिखा हुआ. What is very interesting is none of the religions which originated from Indian soil, like Hinduism, Buddhism, or Jainism, they will not use vellum at all for religious reasons. Even parchment also, you would not find a Jain scripture or a Hindu scripture or a Buddhist scripture either on a vellum or on a parchment. But yes, the scriptures of Abrahamic religions, the Judaism, Christianity, as well as Islam, they can be found on vellum and parchment also. Now, you can also come across some clay tablets, stones, ivory, tortoise shells, silk, and cotton cloths. One interesting shloka that I came across, I would like to present before all of you. It is stated that the manuscript or the book, the rare book, implores the people who are handling it with the following expression: Tailad rakshet, jalad rakshet, rakshet shithila bandhanat, murkha haste nadatyavam, nadatavyam, evam vadati pustakam. The book tells that please save me from oil, please save me from water, please save me from poor binding, and do not hand it over to a fool who is not concerned about the worth of this manuscript. This is how a book implores its readers. Okay, a book or the manuscript implores its readers. Now, as far as the contents of Indian manuscripts are concerned, Jainism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Vedas, Upanishads, Ramayana, Mahabharata, ancient Indian sciences, Ayurveda, etc., are formed. And as regards to scripts are concerned, there are a variety of scripts that are found in Indian manuscripts: Brahmi Lipi, Sharda Lipi, Modi, Nevari, Grantha, Kutila, Devanagari, Tamil, Telugu, Arabic, Persian, Oriya, Malayalam, Bengali, etc. And there are illustrated manuscripts as well as illuminated manuscripts. Illustrated manuscripts are those where you will come across some mathematical calculations, as in the kind of Jyotisha Shastra manuscripts, and maybe maps with explanatory figures and all. So these are different kinds of manuscripts. Manuscript wealth of India, as you know, at least there are 50 lakh manuscripts that are estimated to be present still extant on the Indian soil, but only 20 to 25% of manuscripts could only be catalogued. So at least 75 to 80% of the manuscripts that are present on the Indian soil at this moment are not catalogued. This is a very pathetic situation. Now, coming into the main focus of our discussion, what is conservation? Conservation is basically a two-pronged strategy. The first strategy would be to what is known as the preventive conservation. In preventive conservation, you will see to it that it is not further damaged. You will take care of the environmental factors, you will take care of the handling, and you will take care of how they are stored and various other features. If we are concerned about these aspects, we can certainly enhance the lifespan of our manuscript by a couple of decades. That is what is known as preventive conservation. Periodic cleaning, housekeeping activities, these are all constitute the preventive conservation aspect. As regard to curative aspect, when you recognize the fact that the manuscript is really damaged, then you need to do some curative activity. Those curative measures are technical in nature. You need to undergo some training, and when you have sufficient trained manpower, only then you will be in a position to handle the curative aspect of conservation. So my main focus as far as this presentation is concerned is going to be primarily on preventive conservation aspects. What we can do, first and foremost, if you have any rare books, if you have any manuscript collection in your library or in your college, please see to it that they are orderly kept and they are orderly stored. A little bit of care can increase the life of manuscripts and rare books by decades. Unfortunately, we are quite complacent and callous in our temperament and in our approach as far as storage of our manuscripts and rare books are concerned. And if we put them under lock and key, we don't open it and we don't check about their condition, and because of which the damage continues to take place. If only we open it at least once in 6 months and check their condition, then probably, and if we can keep them in an orderly fashion, probably we would be in a position to save them for our posterity. Next, never ever keep any bound book which is published 100 years ago or maybe 150 years ago in a stack. These can topple over, and whenever they topple over, the binding gets loosened. And when the binding gets loosened, it not only loosens the threads, but also damages the papers which are bound. So it is very important for all of us to remember that never ever any rare book or book which is bound and which is printed and bound 100 years ago should never be stacked one over the other. This is a very important aspect that we all need to recognize. Another important aspect, many of the people have this very bad habit of using what you call the pins to stack a couple of pages together. And you can also see, as in the case of this second image, that people use cellophane tape. If the paper is torn, what generally people try to do, including the librarians, they try to paste that torn area with a cello tape adhesive. This is a very, very wrong practice. It damages the life of the manuscript or the rare book. It is very important that we should never use any alpin, because ये जो alpin और ये जो pins जो हम use करते हैं, they catch rust, and once they catch rust, that entire area gets damaged. We should not use that. And even some people use staplers also to staple the pages together. Neither staplers nor any traditional pins, any iron pins or cellophane tape should ever be used. And if you come across any manuscript or any what you call rare book containing these things, the immediate responsibility of a person as a custodian of that rare material is to see to it that they are immediately removed. The pins are to be removed first. As regards to cellophane, removal of cellophane tape is concerned, it is a professional activity. It requires some solvent cleaning and use of some chemicals. So you can take assistance of any of the manuscript conservation centers such as ours. We have that professionally competent and trained manpower who use appropriate chemicals, and they can remove that adhesive, and then that torn area can be filled with a paste or a gum or a glue that is not harmful for the survival of that particular manuscript. So as far as agents of deterioration are concerned, the physical factors, the heat and temperature, this is the greatest challenge for manuscripts. We need to take care of the heat and temperature. And if we are exhibiting our manuscripts, then the light should be controlled. That is very important. Another great factor that affects the life of manuscripts and rare books is the relative humidity that is present in the atmosphere. And there is this natural aging, which is a natural process. You really cannot really do anything about natural aging. And if they are kept in darkness also, the manuscripts get damaged and the lifespan of the manuscripts gets reduced considerably. So this is very important. As far as the pollution is concerned, unfortunately, we are living in an environment where the atmospheric pollution is very high. Because of the atmospheric pollution, the air that we are breathing also has acidity. It not only affects our own health, it also equally affects the health of the manuscripts and the rare books. So because of this reason, presence of acidity, presence of acidic content in the atmosphere, that the pages turn into yellow. The yellowish color that you come across of ancient pages, manuscripts of 100-year-old or so, is because of the acidic content in the atmosphere. So there are this human vandalism, intentional human vandalism, as was carried out by Bhaktiyar Khalji in 1198. There are natural disasters like fire accident or maybe deluge of water. These are all beyond our human control. But we can certainly control the macroorganisms as well as the microorganisms, which are generally called as the biological factors. As far as the human factors are concerned, the casual and callous attitude with which we as the library staff behave towards our knowledge, what you call the wealth of knowledge embodied in the form of books and the manuscripts, that needs to be altered, that needs to be modified. And we have this casual approach towards books, not only as a library staff, but also as the users of that books. Many of the users of the books generally have this very casual approach towards the books. They write at the edges with pencils and pens, which is a very, very bad habit. Improper storage, faulty repair. Faulty repair is use of cellophane tapes, etc. Rough handling, deliberate abuse, folding of the foredge of the pages as a mark of reading. If you find that this particular page is very important, generally some people, what they do, they fold the edge of that page But over a period of time, that particular part gets weakened and it gets removed from the main content. So the portion is lost. That should never be done. Marking by ball pen. This is really horrendous criminal act, one should say. You should never use ball pen on a piece of paper, on a piece of book. Mutilation and vandalism, these are the human factors. And certainly these can all be controlled, provided we are really serious about them. As regard to some basic guidelines of preventive conservation is concerned, monitoring and regulation of environment of the manuscript repositories is of utmost importance, particularly during this rainy season, during this monsoon season. It is vitally important to see to it that our manuscripts do not get damaged due to the high humidity that is present in the atmosphere, in the air. That is very important. We need to control the biological organisms also. How we control, I will try to explain shortly. And digital preservation is one very important aspect. Monitoring and assessing signs and causes of deterioration should be done periodically. Practicing proper techniques for storing, exhibiting, handling, packing, and shipping of objectives. In fact, what is strongly recommended is we all should come up with some standard do's and don'ts for our library employees. That as regards to storing is concerned, as regarding exhibiting the books or manuscripts are concerned, as regard to their handling, these are all the do's and don'ts. These are all the standard operating procedures that we all need to adopt and follow. If we can come up with these SOPs, it can certainly help in improving the lifespans of our manuscripts and rare books. Developing integrated pest management. Integrated pest management is a four-pronged strategy with the help of which we can certainly control the biological infestation. Preparing emergency operation plan for museum collections is also vitally important. For example, in those institutions, for example, I happen to come across an engineering college where they have displayed beautiful paintings that they have purchased from some center with a great historical value dating back to some 200 or 250 years old. Now they were displayed on the walls and the light was directly projecting onto them. It is recommended that the light should not directly be projected neither onto any printed material nor onto any of the paintings, because light has this tendency to damage the content of the manuscripts as well as the paintings. So for this, what you can do, see, the lux meter and the UV meter and visible light meter are all available for a paltry sum of 300 and 350 rupees. So with a lux meter, if you have any exhibition galleries, you should necessarily have a light meter and see to it that the light meter gives you the reading that is really optimum for the preservation of the manuscripts. That is very important. High temperature destroys the manuscripts as well as the rare books. So in those regions, such as we are in Jalgaon, Jalgaon experiences high degree of temperatures during the peak hours of peak period of summer. It even touches 46, 47, and 48 degrees of temperature. So in those regions where the temperature reaches beyond 45 degrees, it is vitally important for all of us to see to it that there is some temperature control mechanism installed in the library so that the temperature is reasonably maintained between 19 to 22 degrees. It is found scientifically that any manuscript or any rare book stored between 19 to 22 degrees would survive for a couple of centuries without actually receiving any great degree of damage. So the ideal temperature is between 19 to 22 degrees. As far as the humidity is concerned, I was talking about humidity. Did I? Yes, I'm going to talk about humidity. As far as the humidity is concerned, 45 to 55% of humidity, which is known as relative humidity, is the ideal humidity that is to be maintained. So how do we come to know the relative humidity? Now you have these meters that are available, which can be installed in the library where this rare material is installed. So you can take the reading, and if it is between 45 to 55 degrees, it is reasonably good. Now you have dehumidifiers also as well as the humidifiers also available in the market. If the humidity falls down below 45 degrees, you can humidify the air with the help of humidifiers also. If the humidity increases beyond 55 degrees, 55%, then you can dehumidify also with the help of dehumidifiers. What are the simplest and easiest dehumidifiers? Silica gel is the easiest dehumidifier. What is the advantage of using the silica gel? Now, all that you will have to do is simply place the silica gel in the cupboards where these manuscripts are stored. The silica gel, when it is unsaturated, it is blue in color. But as it keeps on absorbing the humidity from the air, it turns into light, what you call pink color, probably gulabi color. It turns into that color. Now, once it turns into that color, all that you will have to do is simply take it out, heat it up in some other place. Now, once it gets heated, it discharges all the humidity that it has absorbed. Now it is ready for reuse. Again, it turns into blue color. Now again, it can be put back into the shelves so that it continues to absorb the humidity, and this can be reused again and again. Another easiest thing is using the calcium oxide. But calcium oxide cannot be used multiple times. Maybe after 3 or 4 times, the efficacy of calcium oxide gets considerably decreased. But unlike calcium oxide, silica gel is a very good bet. It is very cheap, and it is a very instant solution to face the challenge of humidity. Particularly, this is strongly recommended in those coastal areas, in those libraries which are situated in the coastal regions, where the humidity generally fluctuates above 60, 70, and even 80%. So silica gel is one such a very good idea that we can all consider. As far as the infestation of insects is concerned, it is really a great challenge. The cockroaches, silverfish, and many other insects are the direct threat for the manuscripts as well as the rare books. What you can do, there are 2 ways that you can handle this already infested situation. If your books and rare material are already infested with moths or maybe silverfish and other insects, what you can do, you can use a fumigation chamber. A fumigation chamber is a cheap construct. It does not require a lot of money. Maybe by shelling down maybe 2,000 or 3,000 rupees, you can come up with your own fumigation chamber. Now, what is done in this fumigation chamber, you'll place those manuscripts along with those chemicals which act as insecticides, and they will kill even all the organisms. But these manuscripts are to be ideally kept for 21 days in the fumigation chamber to kill all the insects of various stages, all the larvae, egg, and insects in various stages of development. To kill all of them, 21 days is strongly recommended. That these manuscripts are to be kept in the fumigation chamber, and then they can be taken out and then it can be reused. Another technique is keeping them in airtight packs. Now, if you log the the manuscripts in an airtight compartment, this would divest the insects of oxygen, so they would get killed. Another solution would be keeping them in sub-zero temperatures. Now, if you keep these manuscripts in a tightly wrapped plastic containers, and then these plastic containers are kept in sub-freezing temperatures, again, these things, these insects infestation gets considerably controlled. That is one aspect. Another important aspect, as I have just pointed out, you can certainly think of keeping them in such an environment where the animal or the organism does not get the sufficient amount of oxygen to breathe. Because of lack of oxygen, it dies. So even CO2 bubbles are also available in the market, where you can fill in some carbon dioxide into these bubbles and then wrap it up with these CO2 bubbles with the manuscripts. The organisms get killed. That is one important technique. Now, a regular ideal environment is to be maintained to control the insect infestation. Sticky traps are what are known as there are some sticky traps that are available in the market. Now, if you place in and around the manuscript stacking area, what happens? These insects, unfortunately, failing to recognize the fact that there is this sticky substance right before them, they walk over the sticky substance, they get caught by the sticky substance, and there they get killed. So these sticky traps are also available. Another interesting aspect is pheromone traps, but these are insect specific. So they release these pheromones which attract the opposite sex of that insect. So they mistake that the opposite sex is available. So the pheromones help as a traps to trap the organisms, to trap these insects. That can also be certainly considered. Very importantly, wherever the stacking of manuscripts and rare books are present, we should never allow anybody to carry any food substance whatsoever. If we completely restrict use of food substances and we ensure that there is proper ventilation and free circulation of air in that region, the insect infestation gets considerably reduced. That is very important. Now, these are what you call the pheromone traps. These are available in the market. Now, by placing these pheromone traps in vantage places across the library, you can certainly trap the insects. And the image to the right is the what you call the sticky trap. Okay, so how to control the insect infestation? All said and done, we need to plan integrated pest management policies. What are the integrated pest management policies? Basically, it's a four-pronged strategy where you would identify the cause of probable cause of insect infestation, try to control it, test it. Once you know that yes, this particular strategy works, you implement it, and you repeatedly alter these strategies time after one after the other. If you implement one strategy this year, another strategy is to be implemented the next year. So it is like rotation cropping or rotation strategies, which will help in integrated pest management. Paper objects are to be wrapped in de-starched red cotton cloth. It is a traditional practice across India that the manuscripts are generally wrapped either in the yellow cloth or in the red cotton cloth. It has been scientifically studied in the laboratory at Lucknow, National Research Laboratory, Lucknow, that red cloth somehow keeps away the infestation of insects. And even the yellow cloth, yellow is because of the turmeric. अगर आप टर्मरिक में भिगोया हुआ अगर कपड़े से if you wrap your manuscripts, then the turmeric acts as insect repellent. So these things would not come. And the window coverings such as blinds, here is one example. My colleague has given me this thing to give you a demonstration. Do we also have that red cloth? Here is a red cloth. So if you can use this red cloth as a covering to cover the manuscripts, they act as insect repellents. This this cloth, which is de-starched, this is very important. If the cloth has a starch, the insects come to eat that particular starch, the gluten content of that starch. So it should be de-starched first, and then this de-starched cloth is to be kept in the turmeric paste or in the turmeric water for a day or so that the turmeric gets absorbed by this cloth, and this cloth can be used as a wrapping for storing the manuscripts. That is very important. Now I'm presenting before you the condition report. It is very important for us to note the condition of the manuscripts as well as the rare books periodically. So we have devised our own condition report in consultation with the National Mission for Manuscripts as well as many other agencies. For example, IFLA has recommendations for librarians regarding the condition, regarding the noting down the condition of various manuscripts and rare books. Not only that, UNESCO has its own kind of recommendations. Library of Congress has its own recommendations. So we have consulted various recommendations by various agencies, and we have come up with our own condition report. This I'm going to share with all of you at the fag end of my presentation. After the feedback is received from all of you, I'm going to share this link of my presentation with each one of you. Every one of you will get this link on their email ID so that you can maybe consult them. And if you find these condition reports to be suitable, you can certainly incorporate them into your daily usage or maybe modify them and customize them to suit your needs. So this is one such a condition report that we have come up with. Now, it consists of almost 7 to 8 pages. I'm not getting into the details and the content of the manuscript condition report because it is instinctive. If you go through the content of the condition report, you would come to know what exactly is expected of that particular page of condition report. So I will share with all of you. This will help you to note down the condition of the manuscript as well as the rare book material and what is to be carried out. That proposed treatment is also suggested at the bottom. As you can see, the proposed treatment: fumigation, insecticide fumigation, dry cleaning, neutralizing aqueous, non-aqueous substances, resizing. These are all a little bit technical in nature. My colleagues would be presenting a couple of interesting aspects before you, how they conserve the manuscripts and all. Me and my colleagues, we all have undergone various trainings in manuscript and rare book conservation in various Government of India laboratories. So with the little knowledge that we have carried out, that we have got, we have established this National Mission for Manuscripts, Manuscript Conservation Center in our college library. We have a full-fledged laboratory. The laboratory has all sorts of technical procedures and facilities which can help in extending and prolonging the life of manuscripts as well as the rare books. My colleagues would be very happy to share their knowledge with you. And very importantly, these are all provided to all of you free of cost. Anybody whosoever has manuscripts at their possession, irrespective of the fact that it is an institute or an individual, you can certainly ask them to be in touch with us. We will provide all our services free of cost. We do not even take their manuscripts into our possession. We would return them also after carrying out the curative and preventive conservation aspects so that our cultural heritage is preserved and handed over to the posterity. So these are the condition reports. Now, cataloging of manuscripts. The cataloging of manuscripts is tricky and different from the regular accessioning and cataloging that we carry out as far as the regular books are concerned. We have devised our own cataloging modalities for manuscripts and rare books, which I'm going to show here. Now, this is a descriptive catalog. This is recommended by the Government of India. The Government of India recommendation consists of only 13 columns. We have extended with 4 more columns, and now ours is approximately a 17-column descriptive catalog. This catalog provides a complete description of the rare collection that we have at our disposal. This will be really useful to give a presentation before any committee that visits your library. And it consists of serial number, accession number, date of receipt of the manuscript, name of the manuscript, author, year in Shaka, year in AD, received from whom, the subject content, topic, language, script, number of folios, number of pages, part of which bundle. For example, there could be a couple of sub bundles in a huge bundle. So you should be in a position to associate and relate each sub bundle with the main bundle. That is vital and very important. Size of the manuscripts, number of lines per page, and height, width, etc. Are to be mentioned in the size of the manuscript, and the first line and the ending line, and the description and remarks, if any. So these are the important columns in which the details of the manuscripts are to be entered. Now I will come to the last aspect of my presentation. In fact, the topic is such a big one. It requires really elaboration for one complete day. I seriously thought of conducting 2 sessions, but then due to various factors, we thought that we will limit it only to 1 session. In case the participants feel that we need to get into greater detail and into the minor aspects of conservation also, we would certainly like to have one more what you call this webinar conducted in the next month, where we all will get into the minor and even major intricacies of conservation. As regards to digital preservation is concerned, we have, most of us brew a very wrong notion that digital preservation is nothing but scanning and storing the scanned image. No, unless and until the scanned image is searchable, unless and until it is made searchable with the help of optical character recognition software, OCR software, the scanned image has no practical value. So for a scholar, if it is only an image, it has no significance. But if it is a searchable image, if it is a searchable document, only then it has some academic value. So let's all remember, a digital preservation is not merely scanning a document and storing it in a digital form. Digital preservation process is generally a process that involves the selection of the material, treatment, conservation, handling of the material before actually it is sent for scanning, selecting the right kind of an equipment, image capture. There are standards for image capturing also, and there are standards for image processing also, which I am going to share with all of you. The subsequent slides would provide you with the image capturing standards, image processing standards, quality control on how it is to be integrated, how metadata is to be created, and what are the policies that we need to incorporate in terms of migration and storing for considerable period of time. For example, these are the image standards and specifications as recommended by the Government of India. These are the specifications. If I get into these details, it would take at least half an hour more. So I'm not getting into these details. I am going to share this with all of you. So in case you find any difficulty in interpreting these columns, you may please get in touch with me. I will be available at any point of time. I will be very happy to share with all of you whatever the little knowledge I have as far as these image standards are concerned. Image quality checklist is also provided. That image, if you simply scan an image and store it, and without optimizing it for a web optimization, or without actually making it as a raw master and as a regular master and as a thumbnail, if you don't segregate them into three aspects, the image that you have scanned is worthless. It is of little significance and little value for future. So there are certain standards and image quality checklists also, which you can have a look at. And image quality technical metadata is also very important. Please remember, merely scanning a document is only 50% of the activity. The actual challenge comes in preparing the metadata, because it is only because of the metadata that the particular document would be retrieved by a search engine and made available to the users. So it is very important to create metadata. There are three kinds of metadata. In fact, there are four metadata: administrative, technical, and other aspects of metadata. But let's please remember that noting down the metadata during the process of scanning is very important. Now I would request my colleague, Mr. Hemant, first I would request Mr. Jayesh to describe about this Bharatiya Kriti Sampada. Now this is what you call a repository, a digital repository of Government of India, where whatever the content that is digitized and made available is hosted on the National Informatics Center servers of Government of India. तो हमारा यहाँ पे मैनस्क्रिप्ट कंजर्वेशन सेंटर के साथ साथ हमारा मैनस्क्रिप्ट रिसोर्स सेंटर भी है, रिकॉग्नाइज्ड बाय द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, हमारे कॉलेज में ही. तो हमारे यहाँ पे मेरे कोलीग है, बैठो ना जय, माय कोलीग who what you keys in the data into this भारतीय कृति संपदा. तो वो एक 2 मिनट के लिए आपको एक्सप्लेन करेंगे कि ये भारतीय कृति संपदा क्या चीज है और इसमें कैसे जो है डेटा की इन किया जाता है. जय बोलो.
जैसे कि सर ने अभी आपको सबको एक्सप्लेन किया मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट के बारे में, वैसे ही जैसे अभी डिजिटली सब यूज होता है इंटरनेट पे, वैसे ही कृति संपदा मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ गवर्नमेंट ने हमें एक प्लेटफॉर्म सेट करके दिया है, भारतीय कृति संपदा करके. इसके ऊपर आप लॉगिन कर सकते हो, रजिस्ट्रेशन कर सकते हो, ठीक है. और जो भी आपको किसी भी प्रकार की मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट के बारे में इंफॉर्मेशन चाहिए वो आप इस पे डिजिटली सर्च कर सकते हो. इसका जो वेबसाइट है www.kritisampada.भारतीयकृतिसंपदा.nic.in, ठीक है. ये लॉगिन करने के बाद MMM यूजर्स आता है, वहाँ पे आप लॉगिन कर सकते हो, जिससे आप लॉगिन कर सकते हो, आपका रजिस्ट्रेशन कर सकते हो. और उसके आपका इस टाइप से आपका अकाउंट दिखेगा, वेलकम. आप जैसे कि मेरा अकाउंट है वेलकम जयेश पाटिल आएगा, मतलब आपका अकाउंट ओपन हो गया, जैसे कि आप फेसबुक वगैरह यूज करते हैं, लॉग इन लॉग आउट करते हैं, उसी टाइप से। और यहाँ पे कुछ टॉपिक्स दिए हुए हैं, जैसे कि एमआरसी मैनेजमेंट, उसके साइड में मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट मैनेजमेंट। इस तरह से आप अपने कितने इंस्टीट्यूट है आपके, वहाँ आप दे सकते हो, कितने कैटलॉग्स है आप दे सकते हो। उसके बाद मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट डिस्क्रिप्टिव किस तरह से ऐड करना होता है, एडिट करना होता है, वो उसका एग्जांपल यहाँ पे है। ये डिस्क्रिप्टिव मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट का एग्जांपल है, जैसे कि कंप्लीट, कंप्लीट, इनकम्प्लीट, और फिर आपके पास मटेरियल कौन सा है, प्लांट का मटेरियल है या फिर कुछ प्लांट्स लीव्स है, रेयर लीव्स है, या अदर मटेरियल जैसे कि पेपर है।
Okay. Okay, so the one point that I would like to point out is ये जो आप जो डैशबोर्ड जो देख रहे हैं, ये एमआरसी लॉगिन यानी मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट रिसोर्स सेंटर का जो रिकग्निशन मिला है, उनको ही ये लॉगिन करने का फैसिलिटी दिया जाता है। बट एज ए यूजर हम सभी भारतीय कृति संपदा के वेबसाइट पे जा सकते हैं और जितने भी मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स स्कैन किए हुए हैं एंड व्हिच हैव बीन होस्टेड ऑन दिस ऑन देयर सर्वर्स, दे कैन बी एक्सेस्ड फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट। तो हम सभी अपने मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स की जो वेल्थ जो है उसका जो है फायदा हम सभी उठा सकते हैं। नाउ आई रिक्वेस्ट माय अनदर कोलीग मिस्टर हेमंत जोशी to come and explain about the preventive and curative conservation that they carry.
Good evening, all of you. This is manuscript is compared to a born baby. When we take care of a born baby, like that we have to take care of manuscripts. The slogan of manuscript mission is अतीत की रक्षा, भविष्य की सुरक्षा। और दूसरा सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट पॉइंट है विज्ञानम उपासो। मतलब साइंटिफिकली आपको उसको डिपॉजिट करना है, उसको स्टोर करना है, कंजर्वेशन करना है। तो कंजर्वेशन में दो प्रकार आते हैं। सबसे पहला इम्पोर्टेंट है प्रिवेंटिव कंजर्वेशन और दूसरा है क्यूरेटिव कंजर्वेशन। तो प्रिवेंटिव कंजर्वेशन में सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट जो है उसके दो क्राइटेरिया सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट है। पहला है मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट होनी चाहिए, दूसरी नॉलेज होनी चाहिए और सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट तो 75 इयर्स ओल्ड होनी चाहिए। उससे ज्यादा होगी तो चलेगा। और सबसे मतलब सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट बात यह है कि ऑल ऑफ दिस मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स आर कंजर्व्ड फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट। तो मैं आपको दिखाता हूँ। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल नेचुरल जो भी अपने डे टू डे लाइफ में जो यूज किए जाते हैं वो प्रोडक्ट दिखा रहा हूँ। इसमें जो मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट केप्ट होते हैं तो हाँ
ये देखिए अजवाइन का जो भी इस्तेमाल किया जा सकता है, ये अजवाइन सिर्फ खाने के लिए ही नहीं है। अगर हम मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स के सामने रखेंगे, मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट जहाँ पर स्टोर किए हुए हैं वहां पर भी अगर हम ये अजवाइन अगर छिड़कते हैं, सो दिस कैन हेल्प इन एक्चुअली यू नो कंट्रोलिंग द इंसेक्ट इन्फेस्टेशन। अनदर थिंग ये नागरदामिनी, जिसको जो है आप बताओ इसको मराठी में क्या कहते हैं?
Actually, it is in Marathi. It is called as bhui shirad. It is a natural herb, bhui shirad. It is also used for conservation of manuscript in a natural manner
as insect repellent. And you have this gawachi cha, what is called lemongrass oil. No, जो हम जो गवती चाह करके जो कहते हैं, इससे जो है लेमन ग्रास ऑयल का जो है एक्सट्रैक्ट मिलता है, लेमन ग्रास ऑयल करके। अगर वो ऑयल अगर हम यूज करते हैं पाम लीफ के लिए, पाम लीफ मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स के लिए, तो उसका पाम लीफ मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स का लाइफ जो है सब्सटेंशियली बढ़ जाता है। सिट्रोनेला ऑयल के नाम से भी मिलता है, लेमन ग्रास ऑयल के नाम से भी मिलता है। इफ यू हैव मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट पाम लीफ मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स इन योर कलेक्शन, प्लीज सी टू इट दैट एटलीस्ट वंस इन एवरी ईयर this citronella oil is applied onto the palm leaf manuscripts.
Then sandal powder is also used for conservation of manuscript.
In the sense that sandal powder is a very effective insect repellent. So what all we are showing are very effective remedies for repelling the insects. And we also have
vada. It is called as in Marathi. It is called as vada. Khas. It is also used for conservation of manuscript.
And then mint, we are all aware. Mint has this very strong what you call that odor, because of which the insects get repelled. Ashwagandha is also that native herb of India, which has been traditionally used for centuries in various mutts, monasteries and temples to repel the insects and conserve the manuscripts. We also have what is called Vekhand. Vekhand is in Hindi known as Ghoda Bak. ये जो है very effective insect repellent है. इसका पाउडर भी जो है आप इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. अगर पाउडर के फॉर्म में भी नहीं है तो भी अगर वो वेकेंड के अगर टुकड़ों को आप हर एक शेल्फ में रखेंगे तो भी जो है मैनुस्क्रिप्ट का कंजर्वेशन हो सकता है. ये घोड़ा बक का जो है पाउडर फॉर्म पहले मैंने आपको दिखाया है, ये पाउडर फॉर्म है. और पाउडर फॉर्म के अलावा ये जो है इस प्रकार का टुकड़ा मिलता है, दिस कैन आल्सो बी यूज्ड. नाउ this is what is known as cinnamon or दालचीनी. Cinnamon is also a very good insect repellent. लेकिन इसका प्रॉब्लम सिर्फ इतना है कि हर 4 महीने में जो है ये cinnamon अगर आपने पाउडर छिड़का है तो हर 4 महीने में जो है उसको रिप्लेस करते जाना है. Turmeric powder, yes, it has always been the most favorite of all as an insect repellent. जिस कपड़े में हम जो है उसको लपेट के रखना चाहते हैं मैनुस्क्रिप्ट को या रेयर बुक्स को, उसको अगर टर्मरिक में अगर भिगो के उस कपड़े को अगर रखेंगे तो इट एक्ट्स एज अ वेरी गुड इंसेक्ट रिपेलेंट. एंड वी आल्सो हैव दिस शाजीरा और क्यूमिन. शाजीरा का भी जो है छिड़कने के लिए रिकमेंड किया जाता है. शाजीरा अगर कबोर्ड में अगर आप छिड़केंगे पाउडर बना के तो वो भी इंसेक्ट रिपेलेंट का काम करता है. एंड दिस इज व्हाट इज नोन एज निर्गुड़ी. निर्गुड़ी और निर्गुंडी. इन हिंदी इट इज कॉल्ड निर्गुंडी, इन मराठी इट इज कॉल्ड निर्गुड़ी. इसका भी पाउडर वेरी इफेक्टिव इंसेक्ट रिपेलेंट है. ये सब हम आपके लिए इसलिए बता रहे हैं कि दिस आर ऑल वेरी कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव एंड दिस आर ऑल ट्रेडिशनल प्रैक्टिसेस. दे आर कंप्लीटली हार्मलेस, केमिकल फ्री and environmentally also they are very friendly. So whatever the measures that you are employing as insect repellents, they are very safe even for the person who is using them or who is deploying them in the library, and they are very good effective insect repellents. And even clove and clove oil. Clove oil is considered as very effective insect repellent. If you take clove oil or even what you call that lasoon oil, if you can use yes, garlic oil is also available in the market. So lasoon oil and clove oil, if they are applied periodically in the cupboards of where manuscripts and rare books are stored, they act as very good insect repellents. Even वो जो दीमक जो पकड़ते हैं, white ants जो पकड़ते हैं, उसको भी से भी उसका परमानेंट छुटकारा इनसे मिल सकता है. और पेपर या मिरे जो कहते हैं, काली मिरी ऐसा जो भी कहते हैं, मिरे या पेपर, ये भी काफी इफेक्टिव होते हैं मैनुस्क्रिप्ट कंजर्वेशन के लिए. अगर आप वहां पे अगर छिड़केंगे पेपर को तो वो पेपर के स्मेल के कारण से वो जो है इंसेक्ट्स नहीं आते हैं. कैम्फर का इस्तेमाल जो है ट्रेडिशनल है, बहुत आसान तरीका है. कैम्फर को भी अगर अब कैम्फर लाइटिंग वाला जो है इवापोरेटिंग करने के लिए अभी आजकल कुछ इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स भी मिल रहे हैं. आप पीरियड के लिए वंस इन ए डे और मे बी वंस इन ए वीक कैम्फर को अगर आप जलाते हैं उस एरिया में, नॉट विथ फायर, विदाउट यूजिंग फायर, ओनली बाय हीटिंग, तो वो कैम्फर के जो वेपर्स जो निकलते हैं उस वेपर्स के कारण से भी इंसेक्ट्स चले जाते हैं. दिस इज कॉल्ड व्हाट इज कॉल्ड टैमरिंड सीड पाउडर. चिंचा से पाउडर, वो जो टैमरिंड जो होता है, इमली का सीड का पाउडर बहुत इफेक्टिव इंसेक्ट रिपेलेंट है, कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव. टैमरिंड सीड्स आसानी से मिल जाते हैं, उसका पाउडर बनाना है और पाउडर को जो है छिड़कना है. This is very effective. And then these are naphthalene balls. We are all aware of these naphthalene balls, but these are chemicals. It is ideally speaking, we should be depending to the minimum on the chemicals, and we should be relying more on the what you call the traditional practices, because traditional practices are safe, effective, long lasting, and they are all reversible also. They have no bad effect on any of these what you call manuscripts or other things. The gum, certain plants release certain gums. Even those gums are also very effective in repelling the insects. And cotton, हाँ, ये नीम का जो पत्ता जो है ना, ये बहुत इफेक्टिव है. मैं आपको एक प्रैक्टिकल उदाहरण देता हूँ. मेरे घर में जो चावल की बोरी में बहुत इंसेक्ट्स आ गए थे, कीड़े आ गए थे. पिछले 3-4 दिन से मैं ये नीम को जो है उस कॉटन की बोरी में जो मैंने डाला है मेरे चावल के बोरी में, तो इंसेक्ट्स अपने आप भाग गए हैं. This is a practical real time experience that I am sharing with all of you. This I have practically seen with my own eyes in the last 3 days. My colleague has helped me in procuring these neem leaves, and we have practically seen what is the efficacy of these neem leaves on repelling the insects, and it is really very effective. Yes.
During the conservation of manuscript, while we are doing curative conservation, gin shifu powder is used for that paste, and particularly this gin shifu powder is gluten-free powder. When we free the gluten from the any edible matter, then insects or other harmful agents are not disturbing the so-called manuscript. Some papers are also used.
ये जिन शिफू जो है ये एक जापानीज व्हाट यू कॉल एडहेसिव है, ये इंपोर्ट किया जाता है, एंड दिस जिन शिफू इज व्हाट इज रिकमेंडेड बाय द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया फॉर यूजिंग देम फॉर क्यूरेटिव कंजर्वेशन ऑफ द मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स. ये एक इंटरेस्टिंग चीज मैं आपके सामने रखना चाहता हूँ. मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स को स्टोर करने के लिए एसिड फ्री बॉक्सेस हम खुद बनाते हैं हमारे लैबोरेटरी में, मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट कंजर्वेशन सेंटर में. ये एसिड फ्री बॉक्स में मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट को रखा जाता है और इसको क्लोज किया जाता है. नाउ ये बाहर के एनवायरमेंटल पोल्यूशन के कारण से, एसिडिटी के कारण से जो हार्म जो होता है इस मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट के ऊपर, उससे वो कंप्लीटली बच जाता है. सो दिस इज 2000 GSM acid free box. We make these acid free boxes by ourselves. It is strongly recommended that if you have some rare collection of manuscripts and rare books, they need to be kept in containers of this sort. These are very effective and useful.
First of all, this total process of curative conservation is totally reversible. So the papers used for this conservation is, first of all, it's 6 GSM, 6 grams square meter, and the another one is 9 GSM, 9 grams square meter. But when the border lines of the papers are damaged in much more quantity, so the paper named as Lokta is also used for border or for aging.
Lining the border.
So this is very easy, and first of all, this paper can be separated.
Now here is a practical example. As you can see, this particular manuscript, what we have done, this is what is called windowing. ये विंडो लाइनिंग से क्या हो गया है, ये मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट का जो है हैंडलिंग, हम विंडो को पकड़ते हैं तो ऑल ओवर द बॉर्डर्स हम ये लोकता पेपर जोड़ने के कारण से ये मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट की स्क्रिप्ट की लाइफ जो है बढ़ गई है. दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. दिस पर्टिकुलर टेक्निक इज कॉल्ड तकदील हवाशी. दिस वाज प्रैक्टिस्ड बाय द पर्शियन किंग्स इन द एंशिएंट टाइम्स, मे बी इन द ड्यूरिंग द मिडिवल पीरियड. सो वो वही एक्सप्रेशन तकदील हवाशी आज भी इसका नाम जो है इस्तेमाल किया जाता है. तो मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स का जब एडजस्ट टूट जाते हैं, खराब हो जाते हैं, तो दिस टेक्निक इज जनरली रिकमेंडेड. वी आल्सो हैव अदर टेक्निक्स. फुल लाइनिंग दिखा था ना. फॉर एग्जांपल द मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स that are received in the library or in a very poor condition, what we do depending on the requirement. No, this manuscript is completely lined fully. This is called full lining. इसके लिए हमने 9 GSM का पेपर इस्तेमाल किया है और इसके अंदर जो पेस्ट है ग्लूटेन फ्री जिनशुफू पेस्ट है. इसके कारण से इसको इंसेक्ट खाने के लिए नहीं आता है. एंड क्योंकि ये ट्रांसपेरेंट 9 GSM पेपर है तो इसके अंदर के कंटेंट को जो है आप आसानी से पढ़ सकते हैं. और इसके लिए पहले ये काफी ब्रिटिल था. इट वाज नॉट पॉसिबल फॉर दिस पर्टिकुलर मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट पेपर और फोलियो टू बी हैंडल्ड और टू बी टेकन इनटू द हैंड्स. हाथ में लेते ही वो जो है ब्रिटिल होकर चूरा चूरा हो जाता था. बट नाउ दैट वी हैव रिमूव्ड इट्स ब्रिटलनेस बाय व्हाट इज नोन एज सॉल्वेंट क्लीनिंग, एंड देन वी हैव लाइंड दिस मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट कंप्लीटली फुल्ली. अभी इसकी लाइफ बढ़ गई है. नो, दिस मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट वुड सर्वाइव एटलीस्ट फॉर अनदर 200 years. एंड फॉर एग्जाम्पल भविष्य में अगर नया कोई तो भी टेक्नोलॉजी आती है, न्यू प्रोसीजर या नया कोई आइडिया डेवलप होता है, तो दिस प्रोसेस इज कंप्लीटली रिवर्सिबल. नो, यू कैन रिमूव दिस pages, this lining completely without damaging the inner manuscript and keeping the manuscript as it is. And now the new technology can be employed for the preservation of this manuscript for the posterity. So for example, here is one manuscript that we have received very recently from one Sanskrit Pathshala of Ratnagiri district. Now the issue is this, unfortunately, was it has absorbed a considerable amount of moisture, because of which इसका जो है पेपर की क्वालिटी काफी खराब हो गई है. Now इसका जो है हम क्यूरेटिव और प्रिवेंटिव कंजर्वेशन करने वाले हैं. और इंटरेस्टिंग बात है कि ये एटलीस्ट 250 इयर्स एगो है. ये इंफॉर्मेशन कैसे मालूम पड़ा? जैसे मैंने आपको बताया, भोनिटा और पुष्पिका, इसमें अगर आप पढ़ते हैं तो उसमें इंफॉर्मेशन मिल जाती है कि ये कौन से तारीख को, कौन से साल में, कौन से शका के, कौन से संवत्सर में इसको जो है लिखा गया है. So this particular manuscript is 250 years old. So we are conserving it, and we will ensure that this manuscript, the life of this manuscript is extended at least by 200 more years. अब ये पीएच पेपर से जो है हम पीएच इसका चेक करते हैं, पेपर की क्वालिटी और इंक के भाई पीएच जो है चेक करना होता है एसिडिटी के लिए. And if it is found that the paper and the whatever the ink contains some acidic substance, that is to be neutralized. For neutralization, there are certain chemical procedures, standard chemical procedures adopted across the world for neutralizing the acidic content of the manuscripts, which we adopt. हम अगर रेयर बुक्स के लिए करना हो तो पहले उसको अनबाउंड करते हैं. अनबाउंड करने के बाद ये सब प्रोसेस करते हैं. प्रोसेस करने के बाद उनको रीबाइंडिंग करते हैं. इस प्रकार से जो है इवन रेयर बुक्स का जो है कंजर्वेशन हम हमारे कॉलेज के, हमारे मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स और हमारे लाइब्रेरी के भी करते हैं. हाँ, ये एक्साइलिन करके एक सॉल्यूशन है, आप देख सकते हैं. ये इस्तेमाल करके अगर सेलोफेन टेप अगर कहीं पे भी किसी मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट के ऊपर या किसी रेयर बुक के ऊपर लगाया गया हो तो इसका इस्तेमाल करके बहुत आसानी से, लेकिन पेशेंस लगता है, बहुत बारीकी से वो काम करना होता है. एंड विथ सम मेटिकुलस ऑपरेशन the cellophane adhesive whatever is pasted on it can be removed. This my colleagues are competent enough to do. And हम जो है हर एक मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट जैसे हम तैयार करते हैं उसकी एक फ्लैप बनाते हैं. ये फ्लैप में कंप्लीट डिस्क्रिप्शन होता है. So anybody, any scholar who is interested to read a particular manuscript will be provided with this particular manuscript bundle. Just by looking at the flap itself, he would come to know what is the content of this manuscript, who has authored it, how old it is it, in which script it is written, which language it is written, what is the content and what is the subject matter. तो ये सब जो है इस प्रकार हम फ्लैप बनाते हैं. अगेन ये फ्लैप भी एसिड फ्री पेपर के माध्यम से ये फ्लैप बनाया जाता है. माय कोलीग मिस्टर मधुकर बोंडे जो है, देखिए ये फ्लैप आप देख सकते हैं. इस प्रकार ये फ्लैप बनाया जाता है. ये आसान तरीका है, ये आप खुद अपने लाइब्रेरीज में भी बना सकते हैं. इसका एक सिंपल एक डायग्राम होता है, उस मेजरमेंट से अगर आपने बनाया है तो ये फ्लैप आसानी से बन सकता है और इसमें आप मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट को स्टोर कर सकते हैं. अगर मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट के फोलियोस इफ दे आर लेस देन 50, दिस फ्लैप इज वेरी आइडियल. बट इफ द मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट बंडल इज क्वाइट बल्की इन नेचर, देन वी यूज व्हाट इज नोन एज दिस एसिड फ्री बॉक्सेस. ये एसिड फ्री बॉक्स में जो है बल्की मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स को हम रखते हैं और पतले मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट को जो है इस प्रकार के फ्लैप्स में हम बनाते हैं. ये एसिड फ्री पेपर इस प्रकार का आपको मिल जाता है, मार्केट में भी मिल जाता है. देयर आर सर्टेन पर्टिकुलर ट्रेडर्स इन दिस एसिड फ्री बॉक्सेस एंड एसिड फ्री मटेरियल और इस केमिकल्स के लिए. तो यदि somebody is interested, मैं आपके साथ जो है वो ट्रेडर्स का नाम, नंबर वगैरह मैं आप लोगों के साथ सर्टेनली शेयर कर सकता हूँ. आप हमारे संपर्क में रह सकते हैं. फ्रेंड्स, वन थिंग इज वेरी क्लियर, ये सब हम किस लिए कर रहे हैं? आप हो, हम सभी का एक ही मकसद है कि हमारा जो एक कल्चरल लेगेसी है ये बचना चाहिए और आगे की पीढ़ी तक ये पहुंचना चाहिए. So every activity, this is done without any business interest or without any commercial angle attached to it. We are doing it free of cost, and I implore all of you, please develop expertise individually. हम लोग आपको असिस्ट भी कर सकते हैं, मदद भी कर सकते हैं एक्सपर्टीज डेवलप करने के लिए. और एक्सपर्टीज डेवलप करने के बाद वो नॉलेज केवल आप तक सीमित नहीं रहना चाहिए. एंड वॉट एवर द एक्सपर्टीज दैट वी हैव डेवलप्ड, दैट शुड बी शेयर्ड विथ एवरीबडी फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट. दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. Only when we do, then we will be in a position to preserve our cultural legacy for our posterity. My colleague, Mr. Madhukar Bonde, we have entered into a memorandum of understanding with Deccan Postgraduate College in Pune. They have 14,000 manuscripts. So my colleague, Mr. Madhukar Bonde, will give you a brief presentation on what we have done so far. in the as regards to the manuscript preservation at Deccan College. Bonde sir, please.
My name is Madhukar Vasudev Bonde, conservator, MCC, MJ College Jalgaon. ये जून 2019 से डेक्कन कॉलेज में काम कर रहे हैं और उसका स्टेटस ऐसा है 93 प्रिवेंटिव कंजर्वेशन किया है मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट बंडल और 61 क्यूरेटिव कंजर्वेशन है। टोटल 154 मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट बंडल कंजर्वेशन किया है और फोलियो जो है वो 6667 प्रिवेंटिव कंजर्वेशन किया है और क्यूरेटिव कंजर्वेशन जो है वो 5571 है। टोटल जो है वो 12,238 फोलियो कंजर्व किया है।
Is that all, Bonde sir? Friends, again, one important point that we would like to bring to the notice of all of you. Please remember, this activity we are carrying at Deccan College, again, free of cost, because we are funded by the government of India. We are not charging even a single pay to the Deccan College. And we have set up a temporary conservation laboratory at Deccan College, and my colleague, Mr. Madhukar Bonde, and my other colleague, assistant conservator, Mr. Hemant Joshi, and Mr. Jayesh Patil, technical assistant, they have all been there in the Deccan College, stayed there for a couple of months together and conserved these many manuscripts. So the point that we are all trying to, what is folios? Somebody is asking. Again, the point is the manuscript pages are called folios. In book, we call them as pages, but in manuscripts, the expression folios is used. So for example, this is a manuscript. Now this is a single folio. A folio has 2 pages on both sides. This is the recto, this is verso. This is what I have already explained in the beginning of my presentation. So it's already 2 hours. So हमने कुछ प्रयास किया है आप लोगों के सामने। एक मिनट में मेरा प्रेजेंटेशन कंटिन्यू करता हूँ। वीडियो नहीं अभी टाइम नहीं होगा ना। So friends, the interesting and important aspect is that there are several techniques that are available. मैं curative conservation की किसी जिक्र भी नहीं किया है because there are several chemicals that we use for curative conservation, but it requires expertise, it requires training under proper supervision and guidance, which we all have underwent. So instead of focusing on the curative conservation, even if we work a little bit to provide the suitable environment for our manuscripts and our rare books, that would certainly ensure that these manuscripts and rare books, the life of these manuscripts are extended considerably and they are carried forward to the future generations. With this, I would like to take a break here because it is time for us to admit a couple of questions and continue with our question and answer sessions. And somebody has asked whether certificates will be issued. Soon after the feedback is received by us from you, from all of you, within 2 days, all the participants will be receiving their certificates. But only those who have submitted their feedback will be provided with the certificates. Now it is time for any question and answer. Any questions? And here we will start our question and answer session. As a college level, we are opting pest control. Is it useful? What care must be taken when we go for pest control by third party? Madam, the point, I don't know. I think it is from Mr. Deepak Guru. The point is, pest control actually is a difficult process. Let us all admit this fact very clearly. Because the pests continue to pester you. That is the reason they are called pests, because they pester and they pester you frequently. So the only solution and the only technique is to follow certain procedures which are part of integrated pest control and the pester you frequently. So what are the only solution and the only technique is to follow integrated pest control procedures and strategies. There are certain rules and guidelines, set controls and guidelines. What is very important is the nature of the insect, which insect is troubling you. What is the degree of infestation? These are all to be evaluated, and accordingly, a beautiful admixture of traditional practices as well as the chemicals. Please remember, usage of only chemicals has always proven detrimental. So if you use only chemicals, the infestation would be stopped for a while, but again the infestation would come up, and it would come up in double the number. So only chemical treatment is a very bad and very poor idea. The best procedure would be adopting traditional practices coupled with chemical treatments. Occasionally you should embark on the chemical procedures, but most of the time you should rely on the traditional techniques only. With the traditional techniques, the insects are repelled. Insects are repelled. If insects are killed, they come in double the number. But if they are repelled, they will not come. This has been the experience of most of the repositories across the world. Next. Another question is, I am Amrin Taj, PhD student. My question is, a library has more than 4,000 manuscripts in Urdu, Arabic, Persian language, but library published a descriptive catalog, which is available in Urdu language in text formats. Therefore, could you tell me, is there any technology which will help me to convert the text format into editor format? Fortunately, there are many Indian language OCRs also available in the market. OCR is optical character recognition software. पहले जो है only European languages के लिए ही OCRs available होते थे, but fortunately even for Indian languages, Urdu is a native Indian language. It's an admixture of Persian script as well as Hindi language. So you have this OCR software readily available in the market, which can convert the Urdu script into readable textual document in Urdu. That is point number one. Second important point is, since you have developed and prepared your catalog only in Urdu, only those users which are proficient in reading the Urdu script will be benefited by your catalog. That is not really the ideal situation. What is very important is you must immediately embark on the task of translating your Urdu descriptive catalog into English and make it available on your college library portal, so that people would come to know what is the content of your Urdu manuscripts is. That is very important. There is another question. What will you suggest if one library has more than 2,000 manuscripts and have left storage for manuscripts? No option. You have to increase your storage capacity. There's no other go. And the storage capacity, again, care must be taken. Ideally, only the wooden almirahs are to be used, not the steel almirahs. Why wooden almirahs? Wooden almirahs have this excellent ability to absorb the humidity. Because they absorb the humidity is not transferred into the manuscripts. But if you use steel almirahs are impervious to humidity in the air. Because they don't absorb humidity, the humidity is completely transferred onto the manuscript papers. So the manuscripts in the wooden almirahs are more safe than manuscripts stored in a steel almirah. Please suggest a preservation process of rare cloths. Madam, cloth preservation, Ashok Chaudhary. Preservation process for rare cloths. It again is a question of the condition of the cloth that you are talking about. If the condition is reasonably good, all that is required is mere preventive conservation. What is preventive conservation? Periodic cleaning of the dust. What is known as dusting. Soft brush milta hai. Do you have that soft brush with you? We have a soft brush करके मार्केट में मिलता है. Soft brush से manuscripts को या cloths को, paintings को जो है हल्के से उसको जो है क्लीन करना है डस्ट से. Dust is the greatest threat. डस्ट में जो है केमिकल्स होते हैं और वो केमिकल कंटेंट के कारण से मीडियम भी और इंक भी दोनों भी डैमेज होते हैं. Is there any internship opportunity for students? Yes. National Archives of India, Delhi offers internship training program in several programs. There is this archivist internship training program. There is this curator internship training program. बड़ा ब्रश इस प्रकार के जो ब्रश होते हैं, ये ब्रश का इस्तेमाल किया जा सकता है. Please repeat once again. भारतीय कृति संपदा. Bharatiya Kriti Sampada is a repository. It's a digital repository hosted by the Government of India, Ministry of Culture, of all those digital content of the manuscripts, which are digitized by various manuscript resource centers and conservation centers across India, and which are uploaded onto the servers of Bharatiya Kriti Sampada. Now, Bharatiya Kriti Sampada will enable any lay user to get into that Bharati Kriti Sampada website, access the various manuscript, digital contents of various manuscripts available, and then access them free of cost. So this is a facility provided by the Government of India for everybody. This is about as far as the opportunities are concerned. अभी ये लॉकडाउन के पीरियड में नेशनल आर्काइव्स ऑफ इंडिया जिनका जो है इंटर्नशिप प्रोग्राम्स नहीं चल रहे हैं, लेकिन जैसा लॉकडाउन खत्म हो जाता है, आई स्ट्रांगली रिकमेंड ऑल दोस PhD स्कॉलर्स टू गेट इन टच विद नेशनल आर्काइव्स ऑफ इंडिया. प्लीज विजिट देयर वेबसाइट पीरियडिकली. एक्सेलेंट. और एक जो है ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम ऑफर किया जाता है ICMR के माध्यम से. उनका भी एक अच्छा ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम होता है, और मिसकेयर वाले भी जो है एक ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम ऑर्गेनाइज करते हैं डिजिटाइजेशन के बारे में भी, और एज वेल एज क्यूरेटिव कंजर्वेशन यानी केमिकल ट्रीटमेंट कैसे करना है इसके बारे में भी बहुत अच्छा चलता है. आई हैड चेक द फ्री OCR सॉफ्टवेयर. प्लीज डू नॉट रिलाई ऑन फ्री OCR सॉफ्टवेयर. OCR free softwares are not reliable. You will have to purchase patented OCR softwares. You will have to shell some money. There is no other solution. And as far as the accuracy is concerned, even the best OCR software developed for English language gives only accuracy of 95%. So editing is needed. Your editorial craftsmanship is certainly put to test after the OCR is used, because OCR efficacy is around 70 to 80% only as far as Indian languages are concerned. बाकी 20% काम जो है आपको करना ही होता है. There is no other solution. Okay. And any questions? Please repeat one thing. भारती कृष्ण प्रमाण देण्यात येणार आहे त्यासाठी लिंक पाठवा. Yes, we are sending the feedback link. प्रमाणपत्र नक्कीच मिळणार आहे, but please have some patience. That will certainly be provided in this link itself. Any certificate course, we as such are not really offering any course in our college, but yes, National Archives of India is offering certificate programs, and there are other institutions like National Mission for Manuscript, which offer advanced training programs, basic training programs on manuscript conservation. You can get in touch with us or any of the officials of the National Manuscript Mission, so that they can give you the hint on this kind of training programs. We also in our college conduct periodically 5-day introductory preventive conservation training programs once in a year. This year we are conducting online, which is what you are presently witnessing. But next year when we conduct at our institution, we will invite all of you whosoever is interested, so that your TADA will also be paid by us. You will be invited to be present here and learn the techniques of preventive conservation. Okay. Integrated pest management is a lengthy subject, so I'm not getting into those details of integrated pest management. It's a strategy rather, and the strategy involves changing the techniques periodically. आप इस साल एक टेक्निक यूज करते हैं, अगले साल कुछ और टेक्निक यूज करना है, फिर तीसरे साल जो है तीसरा टेक्निक यूज करना है. इस प्रकार इसका इस्तेमाल किया जाता है. Anything else? Which spray or chemical we use to increase the life of a book? As far as increasing the life of the book is concerned, first and foremost, if it is the brittleness is the problem, brittleness को सबसे पहले हटाना होता है. Brittleness के main reason होता है acidic content. Acidity हटाने के लिए जो है आप 30% या 40% ethanol का जो है आप solution तैयार करना है distilled water में. कुछ लोग रिकमेंड करते हैं कि डिस्टिल्ड वाटर नहीं, ऑर्डिनरी वाटर को ही इस्तेमाल करो, क्योंकि डिस्टिल्ड वाटर जो है आयनाइजेशन करता है और उसमें से आयंस को खींच लेता है तो वीक हो जाता है. तो ऑर्डिनरी वाटर में ही, टैप वाटर में ही सही. एथेनॉल 25% से लेकर 40% का कंसंट्रेशन आपको टेस्ट करना होगा pH पेपर से कि उसकी एसिडिटी कितनी है. अगर एसिडिटी थोड़ा ही है तो 25% एथेनॉल के कंटेंट में उसको भिगोना है और उसको निकालना है और सुखाना है, तो उससे जो है उसकी एसिडिटी निकल जाती है. So as far as using of other chemicals is concerned, I really do not recommend using any chemicals unless and until it is urgently required and there is no other go other than using chemicals. Traditional practices have always proved very effective, and they are very safe, and they are very reliable also, and they are completely reversible. They are safe even for the user also. So I strongly recommend using the chemical procedures only. Is there any Arabic, Urdu, Persian manuscript in your library? No. In our library, We only have one manuscript. We only have one Arabic manuscript. Probably it is Arabic because we are not sure which manuscript, in which script it is written, either it is in Urdu or in Arabic. We have not deciphered the script yet. As per your opinion regarding pest control, please briefly explain it, sir. Pest control again is a question of various factors. आपका इंस्टीट्यूट कहाँ पर है? ह्यूमिड एनवायरनमेंट में है तो आपको फंगल इनका चैलेंज बड़ा होता है, फंगस का प्रेवलेंस होता है. So controlling the fungus is really a challenging task, particularly in those libraries which are situated in the coastal belt. तो वो अलग बात है. For example, this is one such manuscript that we have with us, which is probably written in Arabic or Urdu. We are not sure which language is it. We have not yet worked on it. There are many other, there is another manuscript also. This is a printed document, but we have some other manuscript written in Persian or Arabic. Okay, so for professional pest management, you require to take the assistance of a third party who are professional, but please ensure they simply do not spray some chemicals and vanish. Usage of chemicals has always proved detrimental unless, oh, it's Arabic language. Somebody is giving me the information. It's Arabic language. Thank you. Thanks for this information. As regards to usage of chemicals is concerned, they should be sparingly used, and unless and until it is absolutely necessary, usage of chemicals is to be completely avoided. Thank you. I hope we have been able to provide partially, at least to some extent, some answers to some of your questions. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. In case you have any questions or any suggestions or any guidance, please do share your feedback, and in the feedback also, please inform us if you are interested to participate in any training program that we are going to conduct in future in our Manuscript Conservation Lab Center. In case you are interested, we would certainly be considering your candidature in our future activities, and you will be invited not only for all the future webinars, but also on those offline programs where the person will be given hands-on experience in preventive as well as curative conservation. So thank you very much, all of you, for this patient hearing. In fact, we have covered only an iota. एक छोटा सा minuscule area को ही हम cover कर पाए हैं. But this is an attempt, at least, to familiarize all of us with the importance and the need and the significance of conserving the rare books and manuscripts for our posterity. I hope we all agree to the fact that हमारे पूर्वजों ने जो मेहनत करके इसको जो बचा के रखा है, इसे हमें अगली पीढ़ी तक पहुंचाना ये हमारा कर्तव्य है. और as the librarians, as the custodians of the knowledge repository, it is incumbent and vitally important on all of us to see to it that this knowledge is carried forward to the future generations. So with this hope that you all will be working very hard in conserving our knowledge for posterity, we take leave. I request Mr. Hitarbi for
thank
his
you very much,
vote
sir.
of thanks.
May I audible, sir?
Yes.
Thank you very much, sir. Whatever the content you share with us, it is really all about manuscript conservation and rare books for librarians. आपने एक बात और कही थी आपके प्रेजेंटेशन के दरम्यान कि ये जो कुछ भी एक्टिविटी ये हम सब लाइब्रेरियन का एक दायित्व है, इसे एक बिजनेस के तौर पे ना लेते हुए ये हमारी जिम्मेदारी समझकर हम सभी ने इसके बारे में और ज़्यादा प्रयास करने की ज़रूरत है. तो मुझे लगता है सर आपके आज के गाइडेंस के बाद काफ़ी लोग इस काम के लिए सीरियस हो चुके हैं और काफ़ी लोग इस काम को आगे बढ़ाना ज़रूर चाहेंगे. आपके इसी बात से एक बात मैं कहना चाहता हूँ कि यदि राष्ट्र को बचाना है तो संस्कृति बचाना जरूरी है. और अगर आप संस्कृति बचाना चाहते हैं तो हमारे ग्रंथों को बचाना और भी ज़्यादा जरूरी है. जैसे कि आपने काफ़ी सारे टेक्निक्स भी शेयर किए हैं सभी लाइब्रेरी के साथ. तो जिन लोगों ने अब तक इस काम के प्रति सोचा नहीं था या कोई इनिशिएटिव लिया नहीं था, तो इस टेक्निक्स जानने के बाद में और इतना सिंपल वे में आपने प्रेजेंट किया, उसके बाद ज़रूर वो लोग इस काम को आगे बढ़ाएंगे. और आशा करता हूँ कि जो भी किस क्वेरी है वो सभी आपने काफी अच्छी तरीके से लोगों को एक्सप्लेन किया है। और जिसको भी इसके बारे में और कुछ ज्यादा अधिक जानना है वो सर से डायरेक्ट कांटेक्ट कर सकते हैं, हम आपसे ईमेल भी शेयर करेंगे। और जो भी एक्टिविटीज यहाँ पर हो रही है वो फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट में है, इसका कोई बिजनेस पर्पज नहीं है। और आपको भी कोई हेल्प अगर लगती है तो सर की तरफ से मैं भी आपको एश्योरेंस दे सकता हूँ कि आपको डेफिनेटली वो हेल्प मिलेगी। और इस कार्यक्रम को ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म करने का जो आइडिया था सर का वो काफ़ी एक चैलेंजिंग भी था, क्योंकि काफ़ी प्रैक्टिकल एक्सपेक्टेस है जो ऑनलाइन शेयर करना काफ़ी मुश्किल होता है। पर फिर भी सर ने जो नॉलेज आज शेयर किया है वो काफ़ी हद तक प्रभावी था और आप सबको यूजफुल है। इस ऑनलाइन वर्कशॉप को और भी 2-3 पार्ट्स में आगे सर कंटिन्यू करने वाले, तो जरूर आप उस प्रोग्राम में भी अपना पार्टिसिपेट्स ले। और आज के कार्यक्रम को करने के लिए हमें जिनसे प्रेरणा मिली है वो किसी सोसाइटी के अध्यक्ष प्रज्ञावंत डॉक्टर नंद कुमार जी बेंडाए सर, कॉलेज के प्रिंसिपल प्राध्यापक डॉक्टर एस एम धारंबे सर, इस मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट कंजर्वेशन सेंटर के हेड और एसोसिएट डायरेक्टर डॉक्टर वी एस कंची सर, इन सभी और सर की जो भी टीम है इस कंजर्वेशन सेंटर की, इन सभी के द्वारा जो ये इनिशिएटिव लिया गया है ये आप सभी को अच्छा लगा होगा और आप सभी को इसमें से काफी कुछ सीखने को मिला होगा। इस उम्मीद के साथ आज का सत्र
एक इंटरजेक्शन है। डॉक्टर जगदीश कुलकर ने सर सजेस्ट कर रहे हैं कि द व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप दैट यू हैव क्रिएटेड कैन बी कंटिन्यूड व्हिच कैन एक्ट एज अ इज माय वॉइस ऑडिबल? यस, हां, व्हिच कैन एक्ट एज मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट हेल्प ग्रुप। काफी बहुत अच्छा सजेशन है सर, अब हम आपका सजेशन का पालन करेंगे एंड आई विल एश्योर ऑल ऑफ यू कि ये जो व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप को हम कंटिन्यू करते रहेंगे। आप सभी को जो है उसमें मैसेज डालने का जो है वो सुविधा अवेलेबल करके रखेंगे। एनी हेल्प व्हाटएवर, मेरे पास जो नॉलेज है मैं आपके साथ शेयर करूंगा, आपके पास जो नॉलेज जाएगा उससे शेयर कीजिए। हम सभी का ये दायित्व है ये समझ के हमें अपने इस कल्चरल धरोहर जो सांस्कृतिक धरोहर है इस ग्रेट नेशन का, इस नेशन के इस सांस्कृतिक धरोहर को बचाने के लिए हम सबको एकजुट होकर मिलजुल के काम करना है और फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट काम करना है। ये हमारी कमिटमेंट होनी चाहिए और ये व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप को हम चालू रखेंगे और जहां तक हो सके इसमें केवल इंफॉर्मेटिव बातों को ही हमें डालना है। कोई टाइम पास वाले कोई भी मैसेज ना हो, जो कंजर्वेशन के रिलेटेड इंफॉर्मेशन हो जिसके कारण से कई लोगों का फायदा हो सकता है, उस प्रकार की इंफॉर्मेशन हम शेयर करते जाएंगे। अपने कल्चर के बारे में, अपने लेगेसी के बारे में, अपने ग्रेट इंडियन ट्रेडिशन के बारे में अगर आपके पास कुछ इंफॉर्मेशन हो वो भी आप बिना हिचके इस फोरम को इस्तेमाल करके एक दूसरे के साथ शेयर कर सकते हैं।
जरूर सर,
आप सभी जो है आप आपका व्हाट्सएप नंबर अगर शेयर करेंगे तो वो काफी यूजफुल साबित होगा। ग्रुप का जो लिंक है ना, फ्रेंड्स के साथ शेयर करेंगे। हाँ, आप आपके जिन जिन के पास मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट कलेक्शन है, ऐसा जिन आप जो जानते हैं वो आप जो है अपना व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप की लिंक जो है आप आपके फ्रेंड्स के साथ भी शेयर कर सकते हैं। लेकिन जेन्युइन यूजर जिनको मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट से मतलब है, रेयर बुक से मतलब है, ऐसे ही लोगों को जो है हम इस व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में शामिल करेंगे। ये मेरी गुजारिश है आप सभी से। प्लीज शेयर पीपीटी और ईमेल। सर्टेनली ईच वन ऑफ यू विल बी रिसीविंग द पीपीटी, दिस इज माय एश्योरेंस। ओके,
जरूर सर। और आज के कार्यक्रम के कीनोट स्पीकर डॉक्टर जगदीश कुलकर्णी सर, इनका भी हम आभार व्यक्त करते हैं कि उन्होंने ना सिर्फ कीनोट स्पीकर मतलब न सिर्फ स्टार्टिंग के सेशन में रहते हुए एंड तक हमारे साथ रहे, और इसके लिए हम आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया अदा करते हैं। और उम्मीद करते हैं कि आने वाले सभी जो भी सेशन डॉक्टर वी एस कंची सर और उनकी टीम के द्वारा ऑर्गेनाइज करेंगे, ये कुछ नया नॉलेज आप सबके साथ जरूर शेयर करेंगे, इस उम्मीद के साथ। और सभी मान्यवरों के परमिशन से आज का सेशन समाप्त हुआ, इसमें घोषणा करता है।
हाँ, बस एक ही बात है कि कुछ लोगों ने जो है यहाँ पे आप चार्ट बॉक्स में आप आपका मोबाइल नंबर डाल रहे हैं। ये चार्ट जो है जैसे ये सेशन खत्म होगा गायब हो जाएगा। आप आपके मोबाइल नंबर वगैरह जो भी आप शेयर करना चाहेंगे, हम व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप को सभी के लिए ओपन कर देते हैं आज शाम को ही, उस पर आप शेयर करते रहिएगा ताकि वो आपका इंफॉर्मेशन पड़ा रहेगा। यहाँ चार्ट बॉक्स में जो इंफॉर्मेशन आप जो डालेंगे ये इंफॉर्मेशन स्टोर नहीं हो पाएगा। सो प्लीज यूज our WhatsApp group as a platform for exchange of views, ideas, information, etc. I thank one and all once again, particularly my colleague and friend, Mr. Hitesh Brijwasi, जिन्होंने इसका टेक्निकल all technicalities को इन्होंने हैंडल किया है, and in fact he was instrumental in actually boosting my morale कि जो है इस टेक्निकल सेशन को जो है वेबिनार के तौर पे भी हम चला सकते हैं सर, कोई बात नहीं हम करेंगे, उनके मोरल बूस्टिंग के कारण से ही ये सेशन संपन्न हुआ है. So I thank and congratulate my dear colleague Mr. Hitesh Brijwasi and all my colleagues Madhukar Bonde sir, Jayesh Patel and Hemant Joshi sir for their active participation and involvement in this successful execution of this webinar. I thank one and all once again. Namaskar.
सभी से एक गुजारिश है कि फीडबैक फॉर्म भरने की कोई जल्दबाजी ना करें.
बिल्कुल.
स्पेलिंग
और
वगैरह जो
detailed
कुछ भी है,
दीजिएगा.
ये जो भी डेटा आप दोगे उसी हिसाब से सर्टिफिकेट तैयार होंगे. आपके नाम में या कॉलेज के एड्रेस में कोई गलती है तो इसमें आपका ही इन्वॉल्वमेंट रहेगा. हमारे तरफ से कोई डेटा इनपुट नहीं होगा. इसके लिए प्लीज केयरफुली रहिए और फीडबैक फॉर्म आप शांति से भी भर सकते हैं. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
Thank you. One and all. So we take care.